does
It kinda
sound
does, actually.
it kinda sounds like something you'd do in either a Nordic court or Nordic wrestling.
Yeah, or if you've been at Taco Bell and had a little bit of indigestion.
How much Nordic wrestling do you watch, Mo?
Well, I mean, I don't watch look, I didn't realize that a rear naked chokehold was neither performed naked nor in the rear, so not
It
enough.
can. It can. It can.
I'm
Well, if you go back to Greek wrestling, it was.
in my household. That's called a good Wednesday.
Little spoon, big spoon is the only choice.
And Shiraz says, nobody knows me here. No, but everyone will love to get to know you. I'm pretty sure everyone in chat is just dying to hear from you. Hey, Helene T. She is aus Austria. And everyone should go over and congratulate Val. He became baby daddy for the third time this month, yesterday. And
Yep.
let me be the first to say it looks just like you.
Well, the baby's it's a black goat, so I'm not sure where to go with that. But I'll take it. I'll take it. He's a pretty little thing. He's energetic as F. I like him.
Me, myself, and Irene, starring Valhalla.
You know, when I just saw the other mother goats were looking kind of weird when you brought in another one. They were like,
why is this here?
Yeah.
How all of my children reacted to their siblings. Again.
Well, she wasn't quite there yet, right? She wasn't quite showing active labor.
Oh,
so
okay.
Once she started active labor, then everybody was like, oh, okay.
Oh, I was
now
like, the hooves were just part way out. Like, what were we doing?
She was just there, you know. She didn't have any. Goats have ligaments in their back end, and when they're about ready to go, the ligaments get real squishy, and I couldn't feel them at all. So I was like, okay, she's there. She's there.
And this is why you watch the Karen Retrial on our channels, because where else would you know a goat have ligaments that goes real squishy?
Facts.
It's yes. But you all should go look at the. It's cute little goats. I love that when at some point I woke up and I was watching and Dottie's mom was standing in the corner, Dottie hiding behind her, and the other two was just looking at her like, "I'm gonna f you up." So I'm thinking, oh, goat wrestling.
They were a little aggressive when they first got in there last night. Everybody seems pretty mellow now, though. They just had to work it out. They had to get their pecking order sorted, shall we say.
It is information we all need, because now we're going to go into 1 hour of information that we will be running fact-checking, because Valhalla has been rewatching the entire trial, so he will take point on this one. He hasn't slept all night. He is on Dayquil, so it'll be an experiment.
Sudafed's awesome.
So think Hunter S. Johnson and Lally combined. It's not gonna be May, but it's gonna be great.
Hunter S. Thompson, not Johnson. Thompson.
No, I'm talking about the wrestler.
Oh, see, I thought, I was like, oh, that must be another lawyer I don't know from this case.
Not drug-fueled gonzo reporter, I think is what he was going with there, I think.
Oh.
I don't know anything.
Hey, I learned about tennis today. Apparently, there's only 15 points in it.
No 45.
No, technically, there's 4.
Yeah, but they score it weird.
15, 13, 40.
Well, no, sir. Love 15, 30, 40, 45.
Yeah, but wait, nothing is nothing.
Love equals 0? I like this game already.
Weird, y'all.
For bitter, angry women out there.
Hey, here's a fun fact about Hunter S. Thompson. He was cremated, and Johnny Depp shot his remains out of the cannon for his final send-off.
Yeah, I remember they talked about that in the trial.
Yeah.
Who is Raul Duke?
Nah.
Rey Mysterio. I don't know.
Rey Mysterio.
Hey, Zach. He was a mayor or police chief. I'm lost.
Where?
Who?
I have
What
no
if any?
idea. I feel just as prepared as Brennan. I'm like, who? With the what? And
I
Nev's over here.
can't get over how that pork. He was like your youngest, most feral. No, Mom, that dog really ate my homework. I can't. These accusations, I won't stand for him. The dog really ate my homework. We don't have a dog. The cat ate my homework. I tell
Your neighbor's
you, Mom.
dog ate my homework.
No, then one of the experts from the Commonwealth comes in with a mold from Chloe. We have matched these to the granola bar that your son claimed that he did not eat. And Brennan's over there. It's totally allowable. My youngest son, like, yeah, the Academy of Sciences really hasn't discredited it all that much.
Checks out, actually. Checks out.
Goats have pins like cows?
Yeah. Those the pin ligaments is what we were talking about earlier. They've got ligaments that attach from somewhere in their vertebra, their back, to their tips of their back legs. It makes like a little Y coming off their spine. And they're like pencils. They're real hard and thin like pencils, but then when they get pregnant, they get real squishy and you can never feel them. When they go to labor, rather.
So kind of like our sciatic nerve running down the back of your behind.
Yeah, I guess. Something like that. But they're ligaments, not nerves, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Welcome
Have you ever noticed
Anatomy Talking Goat Birthing. How to wrangle your goats,
Everybody
whether they're
needs
in the
to know.
birth canal or not.
Wait till I tell you how ducks do it.
With eggs, I would hope.
Well, the eggs come later.
Well, yeah.
You'll never look at a corkscrew the same way again. I promise you that. Promise.
Well, it's a good thing I only use screw top wine like a classy heifer.
Let's get into it.
Oh, please. Anything to change the topic from duck sex.
Everyone, I've heard something about you need to ground yourself when you have been in a bad situation. Could we pre-ground ourselves? Just massage your feet into the carpet, kind of just feel the earth. Gaia will take care of us.
Can we have a safe word when we need a moment to regroup? Like when it's going from, green to yellow and we need our safe word to Lally has hurt us. We need to bring out the, bad touch doll.
Well, kumquat is always the safe word.
Kumquat?
I assumed it was the same as every Friday. Holy crap, how red is that man?
You should actually go back and see the first hearing just see the opening statement versus this. He lost, I would say, like 50% of his hair.
So much hair.
On top of his head.
Yeah, but he's valiantly keeping this 90s fringe going for the 5 hairs he has left.
Yeah.
God bless you.
There's a side-by-side from his opening and his closing. It's pretty impressive. I didn't realize somebody could lose that much hair in a month and a half. False. Good morning.
I hit him.
Ooh, we added one.
Those are the words of the defendant. 4 times. You heard testimony from 4 different witnesses who overheard and observed those statements from the defendant on January 29th, 2022. You heard testimony from firefighter Timothy Nuttall. He was trying to bag, valve mask Mr. O'Keefe. He was working on resuscitative efforts to try to save Mr. O'Keefe's life. He asked if anyone saw anything or knew what happened.
Lally's blood pressure was 230 over ragu. Pretty good, Zach. That's pretty good. I appreciate that one, buddy. Good job. Good job.
It's funny he can be funny on other chats. On my chat, he's just.
And the defendant said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Oh my God.
Firefighter Anthony Flamati was asking if anyone had information on why Mr. O'Keefe was there in the snow. The defendant repeatedly said, I hit him, I hit him, oh my God, I hit him.
Oh, we added an oh my
Firefighter
God
Katie
now.
McLaughlin.
Yeah, or I hit him, I hit him, I hit him counter, because he's going to say that a lot.
Well, and it's also really funny that the firefighters who heard these, excited utterances failed to write it down in the report because that wouldn't be important or nothing.
Right.
Or McLaughlin, who stood right next to a cop when she apparently said it to her, and the cop said, I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
He was looking for red Solo cups. I mean, he was trying to do his job.
That's there's I can't remember her name. There's a girl making woman who makes tickety talks, where she kind of presents the case from every other case and then the Karen Reed case, where she's because we watched the Dr. Turk case in the same courtroom last week, and we got a search warrant because he told us she was in a pond 1.5 miles away from the house. So of course we got a search warrant, looked at the house. No, you didn't hear me. He was found on the lawn. No reason to go into the house at all. Absolutely no reason. She just I like a little I don't know what you call it when you have your teeth is a little bit apart. I like that, and she has a cute little one of those. So
a gap? You're talking about like
small tooth gap.
Okay.
Got it.
Some men likes feet. And funny because I have a phobia for teeth. So, but I like a little gap in the front teeth.
Maybe that's why. Maybe your phobia of teeth has caused you to like the gap, so you have an escape route.
Because it's deviant.
I'll just focus right on it. I said this morning, Volson, that I have this funny feeling.
Oh my God.
That I'm missing Lally after seeing Brennan yesterday. That's
right.
Yeah.
Was tasked by firefighter Flamati with asking for biographical information and for what the cause was of the traumatic injuries that all the firefighters testified that they observed on Mr. O'Keefe. She asked the defendant, and the defendant said, I hit him repeatedly. Firefighter McLaughlin asked for clarification. You did what? And the defendant repeated, I hit him. Jennifer McCabe stated initially over the phone when speaking with the defendant that the defendant said, could I have hit him in the car while they're on the phone with Ms. Roberts going from Ms. McCabe's house to Mr. O'Keefe's house? Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Once on scene, once asked, as Ms. McCabe described by an EMT, for name, age, things like that related to Mr. O'Keefe, what caused the trauma? She indicated in her testimony that the defendant said repeatedly, I hit him.
It's a style choice, but the fact that he has to look down at his notes so much, I mean, these are points in your case you should have drilled down. You might need to glance down at your notes.
Oh, you're assuming that they've been the points the whole time. No, Mo. These are brand new points that he's had to adapt to over the course of the trial several times.
He lost 15 minutes on his timeline.
Well, but that being said, you should be familiar enough with this case, if this is your profession, to not have to constantly look down. You are wanting to, this is your chance to establish a final rapport with the jury. Being able to look them in the eye, really communicate effectively, your argument. It's a lot of it is lost when you're like, so there was snow and we got some red Solo cups and Trooper Paul said math and stuff.
He couldn't because his cigarette breaks is from he leaves court to he goes back to court. So he didn't have any free time. And can I just I noticed this the first time. I think I also talked about it. That tie he has from when he was best man at a college buddy's wedding is really not working.
It reminds me of something I wore to like senior prom, if I'm being perfectly honest.
It fades into the background. You would think if you're going to be bold and wear a paisley, you would be bold about it.
Doing morning exercise, so not much chatting, but Zach is working and Valhalla is right. I like Rubia. Rubia knows what she's talking about. I like her.
Anyone who says Zach is wrong is right.
And thank you, Zach. Baker, there you go. Super chat advice.
He probably lights one cigarette with the one he's smoking. Yeah, and don't use all the gas in your lighter.
Let's calm down on the man's smoking habits, okay? Let's everybody just take a break on the nicotine intake, all right?
But you don't stand outside and hop through an entire pack in a 15-minute break.
Is that a challenge, sir?
Well, is he to the point where he's tearing the filters off? Because I think that's where we need to
that's rough.
Just discuss the problem.
Rough. Yeah, that's rough.
He does have a weapons grade lull. He hotboxes an entire pack. Yeah.
Oh my God! Could you imagine him stoned? How slowly would he talk?
Oh, hey, man, I had this case, man. Oh,
hey,
and this, so snow.
It was
from
like
the
a
sky,
blizzard, man.
It's so, and I just couldn't figure out what if any snow there was, man. And I was really Johnson, and then they talked about music, and I was just thinking, oh man, can we get some banger tunes?
If we're being honest, he was probably high to come up with this theory, right? So she pulled over, man, and then she like pulled forward, and then she pulled forward again, and then she reversed like 25 miles an hour. It hit him in the elbow. And then he died.
So it was dudes, where is John, not dude, where's my car?
There you go. There you go.
What is even snow, man?
What is
Why did Morrison insert him into the retrial? To not totally emasculate this poor guy. When Brennan came in, I thought he might have been, because they knew they had a shitty case, but they kind of felt they had to do it again. And Lally might need to protect his political future, because there will be a DA position opening up when Morrissey removes himself from the office. I thought it might be that. And then I saw how Brennan treats him and how they treat Brennan by misstating everything in every written motion, dates, years, titles. And I think this is you couldn't finish the job, so sit and watch it and another man do it. It's kind of like when Zach sits in the corner chair. Wrong.
So Sarah, statements that he attributed to the defendant as saying that morning, this is all my fault. This is all my fault. I did this. This is what the defendant is saying on scene. Since then, stories changed a little bit. But those were the words that came from the defendant's mouth on January 29th, 2022, as John O'Keefe lay dying on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road, where the defendant had left him after striking him with her motor vehicle several hours before, and then left him freezing there in a blizzard. There's certain things that have come up over the course of this trial as far as evidence and testimony are concerned, little things. And what I would suggest to you, it's those little things that are quite telling as it pertains to the defendant's statements and the defendant's actions over the course of January 28th, January 29th, and beyond. And I'm going to bring some of those to your attention as I go through, but just ask you to keep that in mind as far as when you're deliberating, when you're reviewing this testimony and this evidence. The little things matter. The little things start piling up in this case. Throughout the course of this trial, you've heard a lot of purported evidence or questions of witnesses in an attempt to distract you from the evidence in this case. It's essentially defense by obfuscation. It's a three-card monitor. Facts and the evidence in this case are your card. They're the Queen of Hearts. And so what I want you to, or what the defense wants you to do is not look at that card. Look at anything else. Look at movement. Look at this person. Look at that person. Look at text messages. Look at this. Don't pay attention to the facts and the evidence, because if you do, what it will ineluctably lead you to is that the defendant is guilty of each of the three indictments before this court. The evidence and the facts of this case are for you, the jury, to decide. Using your common sense.
They want you to look at everything but the car.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
you didn't want to look at any movement, any text messages, any physical evidence.
The fact that half the cops involved got rid of their phones.
and then the SIM card destruction, the picking up evidence with, no cameras in the dead of night, red Solo cups and Trader Joe bags.
And again, he's pointing it like the defense were the ones who got all of the information out during cross-examination. He would have anyed the crap out of them without getting any information. To this day, we still don't know how much snow there was at the scene.
There was a lot.
We heard everything from a light dusting till he was buried in snow.
Lieutenant O'Hara did mention that in the area, they got something like 8 to 20 inches or something. It was very vague.
That was later in the day.
Yeah.
If you go back,
not at the time. Not at the time.
I think
through the whole storm.
Olivia Lambo or Sleuthy have the precipitation schedule from that day, and it was less than inches they had gotten till I think the snow really started coming down either at 5:30 or 6:30 in the morning is where it really started hammering.
Yeah, because typically if you're going to, prep the roads for snow, they do have the trucks going out early to put out the salt or sand, depending on your locality. But I thought I had blocked and repressed these memories, but wasn't the major tranche of snow not supposed to happen until like 5 o'clock early morning hours was when it was really going to start picking up?
Now I want to find that perspiration.
Now we really need a meteorologist.
Precipitation.
No, that's sweating.
No, perspiration is sweating. Precipitation is the word you're looking for.
Well, la-di-da. Look, her female studies finally kicked in.
Using your life experiences as your guide through that as you go. Before I turn to that evidence that I will submit to you and ineluctably demonstrates the defendant's guilt, let me first just address Trooper Proctor. The text messages from Trooper Proctor are unprofessional, they're indefensible, they're inexcusable. However, as distasteful as those messages are, and their content
distasteful,
I submit they had no bearing whatsoever or impact whatsoever on the integrity of the entirety of the investigation that Massachusetts State Police collectively conducted into John O'Keefe's death here. As was asked,
ballsy statement.
Proctor on cross-examination.
Yeah, can we even call it an investigation?
He
really?
never thought would see the light of day. That's whether or not he ever thought that.
Everyone subscribed to Rubia. She's trying to get up to 11 subs. It's a weird pitch, Zach. It's a weird pitch.
Well, he's helping a brother out, and that's nice.
Yeah, brother.
Brother. She's here for a cup of coffee.
About these in a courtroom, put to him in sort of a safe space, a safe place for him to discuss, if you will. What do you not see in those text messages? You don't see any discussion or any illusion of any conspiracy, of any framing of the defendant, of any planting of any evidence, no evidence whatsoever. Why? because it didn't happen. There is no conspiracy. There is no cover-up. There is no evidence.
But there's a lot of phone calls that we don't know because no one ever talked to anyone.
Right? A lot of
That's
butt
one of
dials.
Yeah, and wasn't there a coitus dial?
That was a butt dial during coitus. Yes.
Well, but typically your butt dials when they're in your pants. So was it a schmeckle dial?
The more impressive part of that was the first butt dial going out, and then the second incoming call that he answered with his butt. That was the most impressive part.
He's ambidextrous.
Butt dexterous.
Yes.
I'm just asking the simple question. Did he have to make a Roman war helmet for the camera to recognize it?
Don't Google that. No. Don't Google that.
It's not a bad thing to Google. It's for Brandon, it's one of the tamer things.
That brings up the question, which head does Higgins use to open his phone?
He's even more impressive because his phone was on the side table while he made a butt dial. I got big butts and I cannot lie. It makes my phone go dial when I'm in my bed with a little bit of smack and my phone goes brr. I'm still thinking they had. Coco said, "Okay, I'll let you ride the roller coaster, but you have to have Higgins call me so I can get that little dial
without
for
that
her
visual.
pleasure." Why? This is why we can't play.
Evidence of any of that beyond speculation, rampant speculation and conjecture on behalf of the defense. Two things can be true at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. The texts from Trooper Proctor are distasteful, disrespectful, they're unprofessional. There's no defense to them. And the defendant killed John O'Keefe. Turning to the evidence, let me first talk a little bit about John
dudes, guys, Valhalla and Baker. When you say, two things can be true at possible, do you flick your wrist as flagrantly as he did? I mean, he was. I could understand two things can be true at once because that's kind of how I talk. I'm very direct. I don't like wishy-washy it. But when my arm movements are more masculine than Lally's, well, I don't really have anywhere to go with that. Other than, I guess I'll be carrying him out of a fire should anything happen.
Oh, he's flaming enough for everybody, Mo.
Well, that's why his neck's so red. He's representing.
There you go. I like it.
Still, I hate his groomsman tie. Is that Paisley? Was it that?
I think it's
called
Paisley.
It?
Yeah,
Paisley.
That's so 90s.
Well, Paisley.
I remember when we had.
First of all, Paisley is back. Paisley is a thing again. But the tie that he's wearing is like that wide style, which is still very 90s. And well, that's all I'm going to say about that.
He looks like this was sort of his first project. This was his first time giving a closing statement.
Paisley's back.
No one wears. I don't have that clip anymore when Mo saw her favorite Paisley vest in the universe.
You don't have my what in the Canadian heroin swap meet? Like that was my that.
That's where you found your rhythm on the YouTubes. I've never seen buttons under so much pressure, and I've never seen
such different plaid fabric with a floral in my life. That's because the table curtains were the only ones they had.
She saw Sound of Music and thought, if it's good enough for, it's good enough for me.
Over the course of his trial about his selfless story to his family and friends that loved him, including his adopted niece and nephew. You heard a lot about the lives he touched and the different people who he had friendships with. You heard a lot about from those particular friends and from his family. Turning to what I would submit to you as a time. It's may be a little hard to see up here what I'm going to go with from left to right. January 28th, 2022, 9:49 in the morning, Karen and John begin fighting over text messages. 2:25 p.m. in the afternoon, the defendant texts Mr. O'Keefe, tell me if you are interested in someone else. Can't think of any other reason you've been like this. John texts back, nope. 2:25, Mr. O'Keefe texts the defendant, things haven't been great between us for a while. Ever consider that? This is also testimony that you heard through multiple sources, whether it be phones, whether it be from the chat.
And I don't know relationships because I can't find a love of my own. Mo and Valhalla are both in established relationships. Have you ever seen such a clear indication, I'm going to unalive you, as these text messages?
Well, I mean, they kind of stop starting with me, stop, I'm not answering, stop calling, and then he flips to, I'm going to go get a drink. Someone flips. It's not my relationship. That being said, I'd probably tell you, I'm going to go take the credit card and going on a cruise, have fun. So,
yeah, and he's going to tell you, well, I'm not building you a studio.
Yeah,
and,
there are leverage on both sides.
But again, seeing this and thinking, yep, clearly she is intending to ram him down. Remember when he said, they don't want you to look at the car. They don't want you to look at the, they only want you to look at the text messages. I read every single text message that was from that day. And what they actually did was paint John as kind of an asshole.
That's what I was about to say. The text messages that they don't have in here are the ones where John's inviting her to the bar, right? Come out to Canton, come meet up, blah, 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 blah. It's all very pointed that they didn't want anything to do with each other, when in fact John was trying to get her out to Canton to spend the night out there, or at least the evening.
Yeah, and this is my big worry with the dramatical reading that they're going to do. What are they picking and choosing? Because as much as the state is talking about, being good discovery, little boy, they haven't really narrowed down exactly what they're putting into these dramatical readings. So it can change. If you take a couple of the text messages out, it changes the entire flavor of this. And
yeah, because around 3 p.m., that's where they end. John is sleeping on the couch because he has a hangover at this time. He writes her back, I believe it's at 16:34, 4:34. He texts her back and said, I was sleeping on the couch. I just woke up. Are you coming? And she said, I'm waiting for a guy to fix my plumber, not a euphemism. Fix my boiler, not a euphemism. And he said, I can do that. Are you not staying here? I thought you would come here. Are you banging that guy? This is when John turns heel. Everything after 3 p.m. is when John turns heel.
Well, and he also started it off by, again, she was trying to do something nice. She brought the kids donuts. Now, he could have said, hey, thanks for getting them donuts. Could you possibly get them something healthier the next time? We've talked about this. Instead, he's like, you're getting them, bull crap and fast food and all this. And, so she's doing stuff. She's not used to being a stepmom. She's trying to help out, but she's obviously going to make mistakes. And I didn't really like his tone either. So I think it opens the door to, again, John looking not so great. But it sounds like normal relationship stuff. I mean, are you always the nicest? Are you always the kindest to your partner? No.
Again, take your own phone and look at the last message you sent your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister. And somewhere in there is a point where you said something. Not my last phone call. My mom called me one Friday where I had been at a meeting at the City Hall, and then I had to go drive 2 hours to pick up my kids and have them for the weekend. And I think we had a budgeting meeting, so I had to pick them up, come back, go to budget meetings at the city council. So I was kind of not in the mood and my mom was one of those people who liked to talk. and she could never get to the point. So she called me and said, "Yeah, we just been at the hospital." I said, "Can you get to the point? I'm getting in the car. I'm driving. I'm a little stressed out because I'm late." "Yeah, well, the big C is back and it's terminal." "Well, F you."
Oh.
And then she hung up. Imagine if that phone call had come out and I accidentally sideswiped my mom that day in the driveway.
Right?
Yeah.
We would have never met Baker. He'd be
No.
in Danish prison.
If you haven't been married to a cop, then I'll tell you there is very much that personality is hot, cold, not bully, but talked down to. Some people are just a-holes. I have the nicest guy who's a cop who we don't talk, but we just say hey to each other at the gym. Then there's another cop. Every time I see him, I get the feeling that there's nothing he would like more than put everyone in a leg lock. You know these cops where you can just tell, oh, he got in the job for all the wrong reasons.
You see it
Yeah.
in the military too. You see
Yeah.
those guys in the military. Same thing.
Yeah. It's people who didn't have power who now have a semblance of power and want to be absolute, little despots.
Yeah, been there. Yeah, and because you didn't know, because they told us 3 months before that, oh, she's in remission, everything is great, she's clear, and then she went back to a checkup and got 4 months to live. That's kind of a bum for all of us. Let me just say, I had a lot of allergies on that trip, especially when you have to pick up your kids who are, I think they were 11 and 13 or something like that. It's really hard to tell them, oh, grandma that you love and who has to take care of you this weekend because I'm going to a meeting. Yeah, enjoy your time with her.
Eesh.
That's not fun. Let's just say
No.
it that way.
Back on to happier topics. How about Lally?
What about that murder case?
Christ, man.
Oh my God, this might be the only time Lally was the better of two options.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring everyone down because remember today is, I don't know what you call it in America land, but today was the day that Jesus got judged by Pontius Pilatus.
It's called Maundy Thursday. I don't know.
What?
I'm a recovering Catholic. This is more of a mainstream Christian thing, but I've heard there's something specific that happens on a Thursday. I've only ever known of Palm Friday and Ash Wednesday, so
it's Palm Sunday, but
I'm a heathen now. I handle snakes. I'm saved.
Bible on a budget. Next Sunday, by
I never
Jamie
came to
Ware.
be Steve Gosney.
Oh my God.
Mom is going to be calling me. You need to get to church.
We call it Skærtorsdag, and it's because it's a very sad day. And tomorrow will be Long Friday, because when you're hanging up there, you'll feel the day is passing a little slower than Lally speaking. Now let's do the transition.
Their family members, as to the relationship in the months and weeks leading up to John's murder. 2:32 p.m. John texts the defendant, sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now. He then texts the defendant, OMG, stop calling. This is during the time frame that Trooper Garino was talking about, with 18 phone calls, most of which were rejected, some of which were missed, and a couple of which were answered over the course of this afternoon, as she's continuing to needle and try to engage him in a fight that he doesn't want to have. 2:33 p.m. The defendant texts John, so you're not into this anymore. 2:34 p.m. John texts the defendant, I am not answering, stop calling. The defendant then texts John, then stop starting with him. 2:38 p.m. The defendant texts John, I'm going to grab a drink in a bit. 2:38 in the afternoon. Around 3 p.m. is the testimony you heard from Erin O'Keefe in regard to the defendant texting her, asking if she can go out without her husband, Paul, asking to go out for a drink. This is while Erin O'Keefe testified she was waiting for one of her children at the bus stop, picking that child up around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This is also the point in which the defendant says to Ms. O'Keefe, "Wish I didn't speak to another O'Keefe after 2004. 7:30 p.m., you have Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Camerano arriving at C.F. McCarthy's, with the defendant arriving at 8:51. 8:58 p.m. is when the defendant receives drink number 1 at C.F. McCarthy's. Vodka soda, tall cylinder glass, lime and a straw. 9:13 p.m., drink number 2. 9:20 p.m., drink number 3. 9:33 p.m., drink number 4. 9:57 p.m., drink number 5. 10:22 p.m., drink number 6. 10:29 p.m., drink number 7. 7 drinks from 8:58 p.m. through 10:29 p.m. when she receives that last drink at C.F. McCarthy. The drink that she indicates to Sergeant Mechanic and several others.
He's out smoking.
Okay. Oh, that's okay. Did we ever actually, or are we going to actually see, video evidence that isn't narrated by one of the police officers as to what she drank? Because I honestly could not see her hands. Her back was to the thing. So while they might have been on her, receipt, how do we have any proof that she drank them?
They're not, because they don't have the receipts from that bar. They have receipts from the other bar. And they have more receipts from the McAlberts than they have from Karen Reed's group. Which is funny. Why didn't they get the receipts from C.F. McCarthy's? The receipts they have is for 1 Tito and 2 beers, 2 beers, 1 Tito, two Titos, 1 beer, something like that. I'm going by memory. It might be wrong. $33 and a 15% tip. The Caitlin only tips 10%. She got 2 White Claws, one Jack and Coke, I think, or maybe Jack D, and she got Jameson. But we never. And the funny thing, I counted it when I saw it without him narrating it. Remember when Bev said no narration of the videos? And then I watched another creator who did the same count, and we counted. I have her at 2 less than the other creator did. Because you don't know. Again, she's turning, she's doing stuff with the other people at the scene. You don't know. And the funny thing, why didn't they call the bartender? Who said, at my bar in Denmark, a shot is 2 centiliters. I think in America, they're 4.
Ooh.
But still, I poured her 10 shots, and I poured her 6 shots, and she had 2 long drinks that she kept spiking because this lady, even though she weighs nothing pounds soaking wet, can hold her liquor like a sailor who just visited Lisbon for the first time. I don't know why Lisbon. It was just the first that came up. They didn't have that. They had a barmaid come in and testify how a glass is made. Well, normally they're thicker in the bottom and thinner in the top.
Well, that
was her testimony.
I must have blocked that out between all the snow talk.
And Lolita, I agree with you. And I think this can be a problem when they're going to play that out of context. I drank 6 shots. But then you look at the timeline. She starts at 9, and this happens at midnight. So that's 3 hours. That's 3 of those shots burned off. Again, I don't know how big the shots are in Camerica, and because if I had 6 shots in 3 hours, I would, they lowered but if we had the same legal driving limit, I would probably be below the limit because you burn roughly 1 shot an hour. And 2.5, 3 shots is 0.08. If you do the calculations. I'm a bigger guy. I would probably handle my liquor way better than a skinny, not in the best health woman.
Well, yeah, and it did seem like they were in a crowd. So were those drinks for her? Were they for the friends? I mean, that's kind of where I never quite understood how we looked at the video and got 9 drinks or 8 drinks or any of that.
Yeah, and they built it upon a check where there was, I think, paid for 9 drinks, but that was because she was giving rounds. Do you call them rounds to everyone?
Yeah.
And yes, she claimed in her interviews that she had 6 drinks, and that's a big problem. She should have remembered you have the right to remain silent. I used to outdrink men all the time. Not proud I ended up a bad alcoholic, but I held my liquor pretty well. Seemed they all drank a lot, though. Everyone here is a drunk, but again, only Karen Reed is accused of being a drunk. And when everyone's saying, well, all the cops are drunk, doesn't matter. They're not charged with anything.
Yeah, they're not.
It's not an argument. It's kind of like, I caught you driving the red light. Yeah, but the car in front of me did it. Yeah, I didn't stop him. It doesn't absolve you of your drinking, that everyone else was doing it. And I have 7 years and 115 days and 7 hours sober now. Congratulations.
Awesome job.
I had a little bit of a drinky poo problem around my from roughly from I was 15 till I was 21. Then I jumped out of a car and found out you probably need to change your ways. So I took 2 years off and found out that you can indeed drink without having fun.
Just not while watching Lally.
No. And everyone said she didn't seem drunk, and maybe she is a heavy drinker, which just makes it even less likely that she was so hammered she wouldn't notice John, because if you're an alcoholic, you have that functional BAC level. They are really bad when they are not drunk. Then they have that good zone where they can operate and be like normal people. You know, the kind of people who need a couple of glasses of wine or beer during the day just to keep the equilibrium. And then you have the people who then they'll kick it up and get wasted. But in that zone, she would be like we are in this zone if she is a drinker. That's why this is kind of like, I don't know if it's a Schrodinger's drink, because she's such a massive alcoholic that she wants to drink at 3 p.m. and she drinks a lot. Just read Pleven's book. She's a massive alcoholic. Or she is a very petite lady who got hammered out of her mind by having 9 shots. Either she's a very, very alcoholic lady who should probably not be faced by 9 shots, or she never ever had a drink before and was crawling on the floor. This is kind of the problem with the Commonwealth theory. Again, one of the problems, but they want her to be both. And as I always say, you can't be a little bit pregnant. It's either or.
There's that 30 seconds before the test strip turns.
6 drinks in roughly, she starts at around 9 and they leave the other bar at 12:11, I think it is.
Well, that's also assuming that she didn't drink after, right? That's also assuming that she didn't get home and slam a half bottle of vodka because she was pissed off or whatever.
If she was a massive alcoholic and she was angry, that's what she would do. But she never said she did that. And that's a problem. She said, I drank all the night. They're going to play that in court. They know the strongest card is the OUI. I think the defense, the state will tailor their case for the OUI because they know we can get a conviction on that one based on the first trial. 9-3 on the OUI charge.
Well, that's the problem, right? Is if she had one drink after the fact that they think she had a drink, or the time they think she had a drink, then that 0.93 is completely irrelevant. If she had one drink at any point after leaving 34 Fairview, those numbers are all skewed, and it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Well, but if she had history of heavy drinking problem, wouldn't they just do a search warrant of her house? You know, look at her trash. If it's mainly just gallon bottles like Sarah Boone's, then we can pretty much. Again, if they wanted to build this, she's a heavy drinker. She's, you know, this is a pattern for her, you think that would be the simplest thing to do, to go do a search warrant, look at her, do interviews. Does she have a drinking problem? But notice that question wasn't asked of the, 143 butt dial witnesses who are her bestest friends.
Who all seem to have a drinking problem. A cop even lost his badge and gun during a night of drinking.
No, that was a joke. That was a joke. It was. Come on.
Yeah. The whole thing was a joke. Leave it in my mailbox. Joke.
Yeah. As you always joke about stuff like that.
Terrible.
Yeah, let's go back to this.
On the next day that she did not take with her from C.F. McCarthy's to the waterfall, which several individuals at the waterfall testify that she produced from her coat when she walked in, and that you can clearly see on the C.F. McCarthy's video her walking out the door with the same tall cylinder glass in her right hand. Now, keeping understanding that some of these drinks are not the full tall cylinder drinks, what she's doing is she's getting.
Can someone tell me what county in Massachusetts Canton is in? Because I found the snow report from the what?
Norfolk County, right?
Norfolk.
Shot glasses of vodka and then pouring them into the drink after she's consumed the drink. 10:54 p.m. The defendant and Mr. O'Keefe arrive at the waterfall, during the course of which, on an hour that they're there, the defendant receives drinks number 8 and drinks number 9. 12:10 a.m. From the waterfall video, you have Ms. McCabe, Ms. Polakithis, and the defendant departing the waterfall together. Interestingly, around the same time, you also have the text and screenshot communications between Colin Albert and Allison McCabe in reference to him getting picked up at that time. You also have testimony from Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Caitlin Albert, Brian Albert Jr. in reference to them sort of walking in from the waterfall as Colin Albert is walking out of 34 Fairview Road, gets picked up by Ms. McCabe, and then is driven home. 1 minute later, 12:11, Mr. O'Keefe is then on the waterfall video walking out with cocktail glass.
Did he just say that he had the Alberts were walking into the waterfall as Albert or Colin was walking out of 34?
No, at the house.
I think he misspoke. I think that's what he tried
Colin
to
Albert
say.
and Allison McCabe in reference to him getting picked up at that time. You also have testimony from Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Caitlin Albert, Brian Albert Jr. in reference to them sort of walking in from the waterfall as Colin Albert is walking out of 34 Fairview Road.
The waterfall. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Gets picked up by Ms. McCabe and then is driven home.
This is Delaware.
1 minute later, 12:11, Mr. O'Keefe is then on the waterfall video walking out with cocktail glass in his right hand. At 12:14 a.m., Mr. O'Keefe texts Ms. McCabe, where to? 12:14 a.m., based on the fact that she's driving, and Mme. McCabe indicated in his testimony that she should call him instead of texting while driving, Ms. McCabe calls John O'Keefe. Speaks with him regarding directions or going over which way to come in Chatham Street over Cedar Crest as far as coming into Fairview Road. 12:15:38 a.m., the defendant's vehicle drives by the Canton Library. You can see that on the video. 12:17:56, the defendant drives by the Temple Beth Abraham video. Again, you can see that on the video. Remember also the testimony from Lieutenant Tully in regard to the CSLI data and the ranging data in reference to it coinciding with what you observed, the black SUV from each of those respective videos. 12:19:32, Mr. O'Keefe enters 34 Fairview Road into his Waze app on his phone. 12:23 a.m. is when the defendant conducts a 3-point turn on Cedar Crest and travels back toward Fairview. That's from Mr. O'Keefe's GPS native location data from his phone. Around the same time at 12:23 and 12:24 is when you have that testimony.
Do we know if in this new trial the defense has any greater understanding of the GPS, or are we going to get clarification of how steps happen or don't happen? Has there been any motions kind of wanting to bring in more experts on that, or?
Not that I recall off the top of my head. However, Brian Albert refers to his house in his testimony as a dead zone for cell service. And then Lieutenant O'Hara, the CERT commander, the guys that came in later that day to collect evidence, he said that they tried to plot the evidence. They plotted 3 of them using a Garmin GPS system, and they were all so close together because of the proximity or whatever, that they only plotted 3 of the however 40 something pieces of plastic they found, whatever it was. Or no, they only found a couple. The CERT team only found a couple. The rest were found later. But they only plotted 3 because the GPS was plotting them all basically right on top of each other.
The GPS they haven't addressed, but we have Plevin is always, he did it again yesterday. Oh, the new chip off from Karen. They now have Karen's data. They tried to kind of imply that she went back to the scene on the morning before she went to pick up the lovely ladies, and that doesn't make any sense because they was trying to use a cell tower ping, which is not something you can do. And even though they use that, the cell tower ping is highly inaccurate. See what I found.
Ooh,
This is from January 29th, 2022, Norwood, Massachusetts weather history. Apparently, Logan International Airport is quite close, at like a mile and a half northwest of here. This is the precipitation level. So all the snow kicks in. There's no snow more than
maybe
1-2
maybe
inches.
An inch. Right.
Yeah. This is the time zone where John O'Keefe allegedly is on the front lawn.
Okay, but also look at the temperatures. I mean, it starts out at 3 a.m. being well above at least freezing, or at least close to freezing.
29 degrees Fahrenheit.
Close enough to freezing that you would have to be able to go back several days to see if it was warmer that several days before, because that's going to have variability in the ground sort of frozenness. So at that point, it was a heavy, wet snow, because there's a difference between that really thick, heavy, wet snow and then that really cold, like powdery snow.
It had a high of 35 degrees the day before. Let's see if
no snowfall. No snow on the ground even. That ground wasn't frozen.
This is the week leading into it. At 40 degrees on the Tuesday, then it dips 27, 26, goes back to 35, dips down to 29. How are they going to say that the ground was
2 days of
frozen?
below freezing? There's no way. There's no way that ground's frozen. No way.
No precipitation at all. Let's do the month just to.
How are they going to explain how the man?
Well, they're going to lie.
Got hit
That's what
and
they're
then
going to do.
Jumped over the curb. Someone make it make sense.
What's freezing in
32.
American temperatures?
32.
32. So you have an average temperature that's over freezing up until.
There's no way that ground was frozen. There's no way. No. Absolutely no way.
10 days before, the average temperature was above freezing.
You need to maintain sub-freezing temperatures for days before the ground freezes. The Earth is a warm place inside, y'all. It gets warm down there. It takes a while for the cold to seep through the dirt.
We're not allowed to say moist on this channel. Jamie beats us.
Oh.
Jamie's not here.
True, but I don't want to get Jamie mad at me.
It's fun. You should. I've never said kumquat so fast in my entire life.
It's just funny that this is just me running around on the internets, and I can pick up a weather report from a mile and a half away that clearly indicates there's no way a meteorologist can come in, because first of all, he doesn't know anything about ground hardness. But second of all, we watched the snowfall. None of the snow started coming down till around the time they went out to the scene. It was a couple of inches at maximum. And they were like, oh, he was buried in snow.
That's what she said. But also, we need a hardness expert now, like STAT, the Commonwealth. We would like to introduce, I know that the deadline has passed, but we have a new hardness expert. We were watching The Broken Baker, and they made us look stupid just using the internet.
I can't find the local one. I know I've seen it. I think I've seen it on Lambos or Sleuthies, but I can't find it. Yeah. The fire hydrant and flagpole thought out too. Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you have a fire hydrant, then you have underground water pipes. They'll also distribute heat into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky D'Antono, pulling into Fairview Road around the same time and pulling in behind the dark SUV. 12:25 a.m. is the last native location GPS data of John O'Keefe's phone. It's in that area between 32, 34 Fairview Road, where his body is discovered the next morning, in which there is no movement of that phone from that 12:25 a.m. period until Miss Roberts then picks up the phone on the grass underneath Mr. O'Keefe's body sometime after 6 a.m. What you have up on the screen right now is that data, those plotting points that Trooper Garino was testifying about as far as the movement of the vehicle. Movement of the vehicle.
Isn't it a demonstrative supposed to make things clearer? Now, if I'm doing a, draw by number, I would like it to be clear, but this demonstrative isn't helpful because you don't have, separate colors indicating, the initial part of the trip. Yes, you have numbers there, but when I'm the voice of reason.
You can't see it on the screen. This one says 32. Why is this one here? Remember, GPS is 100% accurate. This says 32. Up here, it starts at 120. Goes down, do the 3-point turn, go back, ends up here. And look, at 142, she's placed right where Higgins' Jeep is. But why is 32?
These numbers aren't sequential. Oh, never mind.
They are. If
I
you
thought I
take
saw
this
13.
route.
It says 137. I missed.
Yeah,
this.
but this one is an outlier. That says 32. Is that someone else's phone? And if Brian Higgins' car was at the mailbox, she would have hit him at 142.
That's the other thing that's so bizarre about this entire thing. Nobody, not a single person, testifies that Brian Higgins' Jeep is right there, except for Brian Higgins and I think Nicole Albert in the very beginning, right? But the cars that pull up right where his Jeep are parked have no memory of that Jeep being there. Ryan Nagel, when he pulls up, he parks right at the end of the driveway, he says. No Jeep in his testimony whatsoever. He's directly behind Karen Reed when he pulls up. Yeah. But Brian Higgins' Jeep should be right there in front of that mailbox.
Like I did that drawing yesterday and say, wouldn't the Nagels have said, we parked behind a white Jeep. When we passed it, we saw Karen Reed's car in front of us, and then we passed her. She was sitting in the car with the interior lights on. We didn't see the door open.
But not only does Ryan Nagel not claim that, either does I can't pronounce his name, the guy that was driving, his buddy that's driving, or the girlfriend in the back seat, or the sister that comes out of the house, walks down the driveway and talks to him at the passenger side door. Whether the door was open or the window was open is still in question, but whatever.
Yeah. Scroll down to Saturday at 8:15 on that link. What link? I don't know.
And how did she get up to 24 miles per hour going backwards in that short amount of space on snowy conditions, not have any, it doesn't seem like, according to the little magic computer in the car, she had any wheel slippage that indicated, either a forceful acceleration or, kind of getting on slickery roads. None of this makes sense. How did he get over the curb? I just need someone to explain to me.
And again, let's say she could do that. Let's say she is Kimi Räikkönen. He's a Formula 1 driver who also drives rally sometimes. She starts down here by the Asian house. No, you can't see it now. Well, this is the official determination from Matt
McCabe.
Matt McCabe. It's the Asian house. She starts somewhere here because she hits John O'Keefe after, because we now have to remember the fire hydrant, because they have to move the impact because of the debris field. So she hits him somewhere in this area. Then you go 60 feet down to the Asian house. She guns the car in reverse on a slight bending road
Curve.
without really. She has her steering wheel. Instead of this, she has this motion on it, because that will clearly clear that bend in the road. Then she have an impact somewhere around this area, continues, because the next key cycle also says she continues at the same speed. In the best of cases, she then slams her brakes and everything locks up, and she comes to a perfect stop under the best circumstances. Braking in a car makes it impossible to steer, so it will keep the trajectory she's on. That would say if she hits him at 143, she would end up in the cars in the driveway, because she would have to let go of the brakes to steer around the Jeep that's placed here. This is the minimum distance I could get any AI to help me figure out that would bring her car from 24.3 miles an hour to a complete stop in perfect conditions. That's in the middle of the driveway. Putting the Jeep there fucks up the entire story. And I think the defense should really talk about, yeah, that's fine. You clocked her on all these key cycles. When did the car stop? And show them a demonstrative. Have the ARCA guy said she couldn't have stopped before she was in the middle of the driveway. If she had to do an emergency evasive maneuver around the Jeep, the key cycles would have shown it, because that would have shown that she severely turned the steering wheel. So either she's hitting the car in the driveway, hitting the Jeep, or should have a key cycle showing she evaded the Jeep, and then she speeds off in this direction, because we never see her going back this direction. She plows backwards, stops the car, and moves forward again. No one in the house hears this 6,000-pound V6 engine gun it.
Four-wheel drive, by the way.
Four-wheel drive, slamming on the brakes, driving up on the front lawn, hitting two cars or one car in the driveway, and then take off again. Not one tire mark, no nothing. No keystrokes to indicate any of this.
I wonder if you could actually hit 24 miles an hour by the fire, the hydrant, right? I wonder if you could stop by the time you hit the driveway. Like, I wonder if that's enough distance, or if you would still be moving.
Aiden couldn't do it.
The driveway. He couldn't do it.
No, he hit the curb.
It seems like even if you were to manage to go 24 miles an hour in reverse up to the point of the fire hydrant where the supposed incident happened, and then slammed on your brakes, it seems like you would still be sliding in the snowy road into the driveway and into the other vehicles there. Like, it doesn't pass the sniff test, y'all. It doesn't pass the sniff test.
Well, and if everyone saw her doing this 3-point turn and everything else, no one saw her accelerate back fast. No one said, "Oh my God, Karen's pissed off. She's got that balloon knot issue, and that's why, it wasn't, everyone wasn't texting each other, Karen's a B word. Look how she peeled out. Brian, John, check your woman. She's peeling out here." You're telling me that these, just gossiping old Gusses wouldn't have done that had she, actually left tire on the road. I can't remember what that's called. Rubber on the road. That thing. Look, works. I don't know racing.
And again, this is where the case. That's where I turned my head and said, "This case is BS." Because if I try to and I don't have an automatic, so I don't know how reverse works, if the gearing will go up with the automatic, because I only have one reverse gear, and if I try and floor it, it'll scream like a banshee. You will hear.
There's only one reverse gear in an automatic.
Yeah. If you hit 24.3 miles per hour, that gear, just go out, put your car in first gear, if you have a stick shift and try to go 24 miles an hour. It'll scream like a sewing machine on speed.
It's much more likely, in my opinion, having come from the land of snow and horribleness, that was probably the tires spinning, right? Like that seems much more likely that those tires just spun briefly and hit 24 RPMs or whatever, 24 miles per hour revolutions, blah, 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 blah. That seems much more likely than her actually gunning it in 24 miles in reverse. That seems insane. It seems crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like her wheels were trying to catch because, sometimes my car will do that on a normal day. So
Chat's been saying that the tow truck driver did spin the wheels, and that seems like that would be the correct timing in the key switches or whatever the hell it is.
Let's get back to
that's the other thing that I hope that they clear up when the keystrokes happened and who had custody during which keystroke event, because that was a hell of a bunch of gobbledygook to me. So I'm hoping they clean that up.
I think they will.
Cedar Crest passes by Fairview, reverses direction, and then comes down Fairview, moving up, as witnesses described, eventually stopping in that area of the property line between 32 and 34 Fairview Road, which happens to coincide with the vehicle control history database information from the Toyota text stream, which you now have up on the screen before you here, indicating that following that 3-point turn, approximately 8 minutes after that, from Trooper Paul's testimony, as far as the mileage, 36 to 38 miles, matching up with the time that the vehicle is in front of 34 Fairview Road, that the vehicle travels in reverse, in a straight line, with 24.2 miles per hour for 62.5 feet, with a minor steering angle change, which the trooper indicated was consistent with a pedestrian collision. At 12:30 a.m., you have that second triggering event 8 minutes after the 3-point turn when the vehicle is in reverse at 24.2 miles an hour. 12:35 is when the defendant calls John, and that's unanswered. 12:36 is around the time that the defendant's phone connects to the Wi-Fi at One Meadows Avenue, Mr. O'Keefe's home. 12:37 is when the defendant leaves this voicemail.
What's the time on the 12:30?
So within minutes of that vehicle's data, going 24.2 miles an hour in reverse for 62.5 feet, the defendant leaves that voicemail, seething in rage as she's screaming, "John, I fucking hate you." 12:40 to 12:42, Ms. McCabe is texting Mr. O'Keefe. She tries calling Mr. O'Keefe, gets no answer. You recall from her testimony around this time frame, about 12:40, she was unsure whether the vehicle was actually still out front or if it had gone at that point. But she was looking for John because she had seen the defendant's vehicle.
No, she wasn't. She was very clear. The car was out front. She texted him when she saw the car outside. She stated that multiple times, multiple interviews. And then all of a sudden, because they fucked up, they changed the timeline. They started the case by claiming she did it at 12:45, and now they had to revise their testimony.
In front of the house, and no one had come in. So she was wondering where her friend, Mr. O'Keefe, was. 12:55. The defendant texts John, "See you later." 12:59. The defendant calls, leaves another voicemail for Mr. O'Keefe. Exhibit 637. It sounded like this.
"John, I'm here with your fucking kids. Nobody knows what the fuck you are, you fucking pervert."
But somebody did know where Mr. O'Keefe was. The defendant knew exactly where he was. She had driven
Seems
him there.
counterintuitive.
Struck him there. She had left him to die there.
I mean, if I knew where he was, I
1:02
wouldn't
a.m.
be calling him
leaves
pissed
another
off.
voicemail with no content.
Right?
And then she texts John, "Your kids are fucking alone." 1:09
But they
a.m.,
weren't.
The defendant texts John, "I'm back in Mansfield. The kids are home alone." She's not. GPS, as far as it never disconnects from the Wi-Fi until the following morning. There's no indication that Ms. Reed left and went to her home in Mansfield at any point.
Why would you
1:10
send that
the defendant
text?
called her parents.
Hold on. Why would
11
you
a.m.
send that text specifically? That text has one intention: to get John to come back home, right? She didn't
Yeah.
say, "Where are you?" because she's trying to create an alibi. She didn't say, "I've had enough of you leaving me," or blah, 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 blah. She is intentionally trying to get him to come back to the house because she didn't do this. She believes that he went in that house and that he stayed there and left her out in the car.
Well, and if she's so, dastardly and calling him to try to give herself an alibi, why the hell would
wouldn't
she
be it.
call him, calling him a prevert and,
Right.
and
That wouldn't
saying
be it.
like, your kids are at home alone. I'm going to leave them in the house all by themselves,
It would be, where are you? It would be,
Yeah.
why won't you answer me? It would be something like that, right? Trying to get a response, not trying to get him to come home.
It would be, hey, John, I know you're partying with the guys, and I just want to tell you, I'm back home safe now. I'm going to take care of the kids tonight. See you in the morning. I love you so much. I can't wait to see you. A little kissy emoji.
Yeah.
This is what they used against Karen Tala, because she was asking, do you want something from Burger King? We are going to, because our kid wants mac and cheese instead of something else. This is what they used. She used way too friendly language, clearly establishing an alibi. Oh, she's using way too harsher language, clearly establishing an alibi. Again, it's a little bit pregnant. It's wrong no matter what you do.
Well, and it shows just how the state is going to use these texts. And again, they're not going to be used in context. They're going to be used as Karen's going to leave those children. I'm surprised they didn't try to charge her for stealing the glass, child endangerment, being, uppity.
Yeah, but again, everything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law, and they will use it completely out of context and in the wrong way.
Anything you say can and will be used in the court of law.
John, I'm going home. I cannot leave you to Amy. I need to go home. You are fucking using me right now. You're fucking another girl. Keep sleeping next to me. You're a fucking loser. Fuck yourself.
1:18 a.m., the defendant leaves another voicemail. Now about 1:40.
And I mean, if you've already run him over because he's a cheater, why do you need to tell him to go F himself?
Yeah.
And can I point out in these 45 minutes that she's infuriated with John ditching her at this party? I'm sure she's drinking, because that's what I'd be doing, right? If I think my man just left me and went into a party to hook up with some bitch, oh my God, I'm drinking the whole time, y'all, the whole time.
Yeah. I'll be pacing in the, and the funny thing, because we have her data, it matches with her phone and everything. Who was it who went home and started pacing around in her house? That was Jen McCabe. Why didn't she go home? Didn't know anything bad happened and just jumped in bed. Why was she pacing around till 2:30 in the morning?
3 hours or something, right? Yeah.
Don't.
Ridiculous.
3 or 1:45 a.m. is when Julie Nagel testified that they were leaving the house, and she sees a large black object on the lawn near the flagpole while leaving.
That she never mentioned in any report until she took the stand, because she just remembered.
Not in the grand jury, not in the federal investigation, nothing.
Never.
Body to be out on the front lawn. 4:42
and nobody else in the car heard it
calls
either.
And speaks. The calls to her parents are finally.
Jen McCabe didn't see it. They were talking about food.
Yeah, she was looking
something
directly
about
at
peanut butter and bread.
Yeah, she was sitting
God,
like
so
this.
infuriating.
Again, how the jury got it this wrong shows you why you should never rely on a jury.
Answer. 4:49 a.m. Defendant calls Ms. Camerano, screaming, "Where's Mike?" 4:53 in the morning is when the defendant instructs Haley, Mr. O'Keefe's niece, to call Ms. McCabe. Why? Because the defendant doesn't have Ms. McCabe's phone number. He indicates that John didn't come home. We got in a fight, and I left him at the waterfall. Those are the first statements or the first version of events that she's able to communicate out to the world as to what happened to Mr. O'Keefe and where he is. We got into a fight. I left him at the waterfall. 5 a.m., the defendant calls Kerry Roberts, saying, "John's dead. Kerry, hangs up the phone. 5:01, the defendant calls Kerry Roberts again. And it's at this point that she indicates that John's dead. He must have been hit by a plow. 5:07 a.m., the defendant leaves One Meadows Ave. You have the video of that. It's number 153 in Exhibit 6. We'll get to that a little more in a moment. About 5:10 a.m., the defendant calls Kerry Roberts. Ms. Roberts starts calling hospitals, calling HPD, calling 911, something that you would do if you didn't know where Mr. O'Keefe was. for all of these hours, that all of these other phone calls are being made and these text messages are being sent and calling your parents and all of these other things. No calls to 911 from the defendant.
I'm not going
John
to call
O'Keefe is
911
laying
on an
freezing
asshole.
and dying from a brain injury and a skull fracture on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road. 5:11 a.m., the defendant's vehicle is seen on the Canton Library camera heading towards the waterfall. Seems to be sort of retracing steps. 5:18 a.m., the defendant's vehicle is seen at Washington Street and Chapman on the Temple Beth Abraham video, heading in the same direction that it was the night before when it was heading to 34 Fairview Road.
And this is a slimy way of implying that she went back to the scene before she went to Jen McCabe's. He has no evidence of it, but he's just said, well, she went in the same direction. Yeah, I go in the same direction as my gym every time I drive out of my house because I can go either right or left and it'll go in the direction of my gym. Doesn't mean I go to the gym every time I leave my house.
Isn't it also in the direction of the
5:35
waterfall?
is when the defendant arrives at Ms. McCabe's house. Ms. Roberts arrives shortly thereafter. Both of them see the broken taillight at that time in the driveway. Now that gap of 5:18 to 5:35 is way too much time to be driving from the area of the waterfall to Jennifer McCabe's house. And as I indicated a moment before, heading in the same direction, same directionality, retracing the steps from the night before.
Same directionality. Is that a cromulent word?
Well, she was traveling north again, so she was clearly up to misdeeds.
But it's directionality.
It's a word. It's not
Well,
a great
look.
word. It's a word.
She was going towards the McCabe, so obviously she had chosen violence, the directionality of violence. And
I guess you could just say direction, couldn't you?
you could, but futuristically we won't.
Did, and he said in the same direction, in the same directionality. He used both words in the same sentence, and that's why I was thinking, is directionality a cromulent word to use in that sentence?
So actually, directionality is a form of directional, which is an adjective relating to or indicating the direction in which someone or something is situated, moving, or developing. 2, having a particular direction of motion, progression, or orientation. So I guess it's probably okay.
34 Fairview Road. Why is it that the defendant can see Mr. O'Keefe when they eventually get to Fairview Road and no one else can? It's because she knew exactly where he was. She had hit him and left him there the night before. She had gone back during that time frame between 5:18 a.m. when she's seen on the Temple video and 5:35 when she arrives at Ms. McCabe's house. 5:33 is when the defendant, Ms. McCabe, and Ms. Roberts return to One Meadows Ave searching for John. 6:03 is when the defendant, no one else, spots Mr. O'Keefe's body buried in the snow. Exhibit 12, indicating this cruise camera video, which I know you've seen a dozen times.
I love how he uses that as an excuse to like point guilt, right? She found him, nobody else did. Well, you had 37 people walk out of that house and not one of them saw this body laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, were they paying attention? I would think it's much more suspicious that John was supposed to be starting or showing up at a party. You see Karen's car leave. John never comes into the effing house. Now, Jen McCabe was apparently, keeping her peepers, her, Kubrick peepers, just staring out from under a rock looking for John. So, at some point, everyone's like, hey, I saw Karen leave. Did John come in? I mean, I get the assumption you could probably think maybe they decided to up on off and go home. But Jen McCabe seemed invested in John really being there, like looking out the window, staring out from under a rock, looking out under her underbite.
She tried to get Karen Reed to come with her in the car when they were walking out of the bar. She told Karen, she says something along the lines of, "You're coming with me. You come with me." And she was very vested in getting them two over to the house.
Yeah, but she didn't care that he didn't come in. It was just they drove home.
She looked out the window 3 separate times and saw Karen Reed's car out there 3 separate times, and texted him each time that she was looking out the window, and then drove away. And no big deal.
It's just
Hard right here is the spotlight that Officer Saraf had to use in order to locate, even with a vehicle of Ms. Roberts parked right in the middle of the road.
Oh, for God's sake. Now we're going to see if it was snowing.
Let me tell you something, brother. They should be so lucky that this camera is this bad, because it paints a totally different picture of what reality was at this time. Because this looks, it's just a whiteout. Then we see the pictures from the neighbor's house that, no one ever came out, even though the neighbors have pictures of all the cars outside. And you can see, no, it's just this car that has a shitty windshield wiper. And yeah, there's some snow blowing, but I've seen worse in Denmark than this massive blizzard that didn't hit till 3 hours later.
Right there.
This is Massachusetts. They get nor'easters all the time. This is not, I would think this is like Tuesday.
This is the worst in the world. Oh, and he could hardly see the car. I could see the car the instant this video started. And again, the snow isn't that. This is the fire hydrant, right?
Yep.
So now we actually know a fixed point where he was, because I never figured out where he was. He's at the fire hydrant. Oh, I never noticed that before. I thought he was way up on the grass closer to the flagpole. But
yeah, that's what I got the impression of.
Well, why didn't they find that piece of glass that's situated right next to the fire hydrant till later? The more that you know. We actually have a fixed point. But again, this isn't that bad weather. It's because it's a shitty camera, and when the front light hits the snow, it looks worse.
His windshield wipers aren't
in the darkness,
working.
In the snow, in the blizzard, in those conditions. The defendant, sitting in the back seat of the vehicle, knows exactly where Mr. O'Keefe is, covered in snow, as you heard from all of the paramedics.
He couldn't have been covered in snow. First of all, he allegedly still was breathing, which he probably most likely wasn't. But if snow had accumulated on him, his body would also have contained some heat that would have melted some of the snow. I really hate this.
Volstorm with a 5-month membership says, "How dare you people question the Commonwealth?" Good point, sir. Good point.
Yeah.
Valid.
Yeah.
From the civilian witnesses, from the first responders. The defendant knows exactly where he is. 6:07 a.m., Ms. McCabe calls 911. 6:08, the defendant leaves that 4 or 5 minute voicemail, leaving the phone in the car for some reason to Mr. O'Keefe's phone. 6:23 and 6:24 in the morning is when Ms. McCabe conducts those Google searches. 7:50 in the morning is when Mr. O'Keefe is pronounced deceased at Good Samaritan Hospital. 4:13 to 4:20 p.m. is when the defendant's SUV is towed from her parents' house in Dighton. 5:20 p.m. is when the search team arrives in the area of 34 Fairview Road to conduct the search for evidence. 5:30 p.m. is when the defendant's vehicle arrives at the Canton Police Department south. We circle back for a moment to Mr. O'Keefe, to his families, to his friends, and to his relationship with the defendant. You heard testimony from Paul and Aaron O'Keefe that they liked the defendant, that they thought he was good for John, thought he was good for the kids. All outward appearances of the relationship were good. You heard testimony from the children that that was not true behind closed doors. But Paul O'Keefe testified that he told the defendant's parents this, that he liked Ms. that he thought that she was good for John, thought that she was good for the kids, weeks before John.
Well, she did bail him out of jail once.
He even blew her a kiss in the emergency department at Good Samaritan as he was walking out and she was still being treated while they were there.
Why did he blow her a kiss? That's such a weird thing.
I think it's because they weren't allowing her back there, so he was from a distance, and she was, freaking out, and he's just kind of.
But it doesn't seem like they had a really good relationship.
No, him and her, Paul and her.
Paul and Karen didn't seem like the best of friends. And to be honest, what I've gathered with the lawsuits over the kids and stuff like that, doesn't seem like Peggy and Paul were the biggest fans of John either. because you can have him. I don't want him. And then all of a sudden he's blowing her a kiss because
Blowing her a kiss seems like such a kiss off. Like instead of flipping her off, I'm gonna, blow you a kiss as you're, being
hauled in
back.
for. I never liked that. Blowing a kiss like it's something nice.
I do it.
I did her over.
I do.
Yeah,
it.
but you don't do it to your brother's girlfriend that you don't really have a relationship with after you just came out of seeing your brother with what you thought were injuries after a fight, and then you see her screaming outside in the hall, and you just
it's weird.
You wouldn't do that. You would say, "See you later," to someone you know. Blowing a kiss is not something you do in a horrible situation where she's screaming and crying, being held back by officers or medical personnel.
Yeah, probably not. I would probably walk over there, right? Like I would go and I mean, because he did.
I would go close and say, "Hey, Karen,
right?
I'm going home. I'm taking care of the kids. Come talk to me as soon as possible. I'll see you later."
Right.
Blowing your kiss is kind of like.
Do they have the kids on the witness list again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paul is a freak, so yeah, could be that.
I also got the impression that Erin doesn't really like the O'Keefes very much either. She made a comment on the stand about how she can imagine how stressful it must have been with the O'Keefe parents around all the time. And there was some more looking back on it. I was like, oh, you hate the O'Keefes too. Okay. Now I get it.
Yeah. I think the divorce probably, I don't know if they are divorced, but already at the first trial, they had two separate addresses. So they're
They're not living together anymore. Erin and Paul. Yeah.
And she hasn't been showing up to court at all. And probably didn't help that Aiden got that connection with the lady who had been smexting him.
Listen, Paul, buddy, if you don't want to have marital issues about cheating on your wife, don't fucking cheat on your wife. Hey,
maybe if you're watching a trial where they're trying to use text messages to effing indict someone, maybe don't do dumb shit in your text messages.
Glazed donuts, gross. Stop it. Bad, Danny T. Bad.
Yeah. Talking about glazing people's donuts. And can I just say, as a semi-successful content creator, some people will reach out to you and say stuff where you think, oh my. Some of them will even be women. Not all of them are Zach. And you can sit here and think, oh, that could be interesting. And then you remember most of my audience lives 7,000 miles away, and everything you'll type can show up later. Trust me, I've seen a lot of creators who got into that little bit of a problem. So
haven't we all?
Yeah. If you want to smack someone up, don't do it on your phone. Don't try to hook up with some rando who just writes you and said, "I saw you in court. You look handsome." Yeah. Because they will keep that message. And at the most inopportune time for you, they will release it. Hey, Elon, how is that St. Clair lady doing right now?
Yeah.
Yikes.
I will keep ours, but
invited her to sit down with him while he explained to their nephew Patrick about John's passing. Defendant shows up at the house, abruptly goes upstairs with her father for a period of about 15 minutes, which is about half of the time that she spent there that morning grieving with the family. She left with a bag of her belongings, drove with her family there, and then took an extra vehicle in the height of the blizzard, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, drive that vehicle all the way from Canton.
It's her daily driver. Blizzard. She doesn't live at the address. So she was supposed to drive in a blizzard in the other car, not knowing how long the blizzard is going to last, go back and pick it up and go to her own house. I hate this guy.
I really can't stand him.
Where it was parked at her boyfriend's house, where she stayed over on many occasions, drove that vehicle or felt the need to drive that vehicle from Canton all the way down to her parents' house in Dighton at the height of the blizzard. You heard testimony from Aaron.
No, I've been not burned, but I've seen other people been burned on the internet. That's why I will always be friendly, but not overly friendly.
Of the text messages on
Except for
phone
Zach.
call on
Zach
January
can send me
28th.
those pictures.
You've heard that Erin O'Keefe called the defendant on the morning of the 29th because she was concerned for her. She wanted to know what was going on with someone she considered her friend. The defendant yells, "John is dead." Ms. Robertson grabs the phone and then updates Erin O'Keefe as to what's going on with John. Erin O'Keefe again calls back later because she's concerned for someone that she considered her friend. How does the defendant respond? These are some of the little things. The defendant indicates to Ms. O'Keefe that she just has to remember the bad times and indicates to her, "I don't think I'll ever see you guys." This is after she's done her quick in and out at One Meadows Ave and is now with her parents or with her father, driving that car, essentially taking the murder weapon from Canton and bringing it down to her parents' house in Dighton. She's indicating over the phone to Erin O'Keefe.
Okay, that I'll never
I'll
see
ever
you
see
guys again doesn't strike me as completely different. I mean, they weren't married. That she's not his widow. I mean, I know she was with him for what, a year and didn't go on that magical one date that one chick who's his widow online, you know, always touts. But
yeah,
it's awkward.
He was hurt the worst.
I mean,
she was actually the biggest victim in all of this. John O'Keefe, yeah, he's dead. But this lady who had a date 20 years ago, why won't anyone think about the kids?
Now, is the stuff about allegations that that Paul used a lot of the kids, like money that was supposed to help sustain them and, you know, set up by his parents and other things to build a deck and things like that?
No idea.
Is that kind of also going around? Because
I haven't heard anything about it recently, and I have seen no evidence of it. I've heard a lot. There's a lot of. This is why I always say I'll respond to things that I've seen on paper, because there's so many rumors out there about who did what, and when, why, and they used the trust fund. They didn't use the trust fund. They built a new deck. They didn't build a new deck. I don't know, and I have no evidence, and that's why I don't want to spread the rumors that they did.
Sounds
because
good.
It's also liable to say someone stole money from the kids. So, and I don't like to be. I'd like to go to America, but not to go to a courtroom.
No, that makes. I was wondering if that had any validity to it, because again, trying to parse through what is sort of internet speculation versus what is actually in motions and actually there is a bit.
Yeah, and again, I've asked around. I've never seen any papers certifying that, yeah, they took money out of the fund and the fund is empty or anything. Fun thing, Ken Reed set up that fund, as far as I remember, as I've been told.
Oh,
interesting.
Why? If she didn't kill John, why would she say it?
Why would she say it if she killed John? It's Schrodinger's
You heard a lot of
argument.
testimony about New Year's Eve in Aruba. You heard the testimony from Ms. O'Keefe in regard to them exchanging, her and the defendant exchanging text messages on the flight down, arranging times to meet up. And then the defendant telling Erin via text message that she caught Johnny kissing Laura's sister in the hotel lobby. She got into an argument about it, and then they never met up. Meaning the defendant, Ms. O'Keefe, got into an argument about it.
Oh, that's the stupid Aruba. That won't be a part of this trial.
Oh,
She
thank
and Erin
goodness.
O'Keefe never ended up meeting up in Aruba. You heard testimony consistent from Laura Sullivan, Mariette Sullivan, as well as Joe.
About that, though, by the way,
Never.
she maintains that John was making out with that girl after that, right? It wasn't a misunderstanding, and she realized that that wasn't the case. She told Erin O'Keefe that he was making out with her. She told Brian Higgins that John was making out with her. It's not like that got resolved and it wasn't a thing. She told Higgins that he cheated on her with that chicken Aruba. She told Aaron O'Keefe that she caught her making out with that girl. So that's a weird spin on that. That's not quite resolved in my mind as well.
And again, doesn't mean that she killed him, because he necked another woman and she got her payback by kissing Higgins.
Right.
Well, why is the state working so hard to create a motive? They don't need to. None of this says that they need a motive. They had a case with she ran him, or, she was drunk and she ran him down. I mean, again, why try to put all this motive and she was mad at him when, it could have been reckless, vehicular homicide?
Remember in the start when he said, they don't want you to look at the car. What hasn't he talked about so far? He's 26 minutes in. This 1 hour stream will take 40 hours. But he hasn't talked about the car. I know the sisters from Aruba is still on the witness list, but go back and watch the third last hearing. They are mentioned they could potentially be called as rebuttal witnesses. He's not going into the Aruba argument.
It never would happen based on the relationship, the godfather relationship that John O'Keefe had with Laura Sullivan, her family, and particularly Laura Sullivan's child. The defendant persists with this unfounded suspicion and accusations of infidelity in her text messages with Mr. O'Keefe, in her text messages with Mr. Higgins, where she's accusing Mr. O'Keefe of making out in the lobby with Marietta Sullivan. Both of the Sullivans and the children have the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe following this incident with Marietta Sullivan going into a room. Both of the children testified that they're in that room for about 20 to 25 minutes and they're arguing about the defendant, indicating.
Mo, have you ever gone into a room with Mr. Mo for 20 to 25 minutes to tell him how he absolutely was wrong? You needed that wig.
No, but I have gone to look for Mr. Mo and found him after 25 minutes, though my kids just think I'm really bad at finding him.
Giggity.
Yeah.
There's nothing like mid-time. Have you found Dad yet? He must be a really good hider. Nope, go keep looking. He's playing hide and seek like a sumbitch, isn't he?
He's a better hider than Sarah Boone's husband.
Better hider than Sasquatch.
Mr. O'Keefe kissed someone in the locker. And you have Laura Sullivan 20 to 25 minutes after the sister comes out and states her displeasure about the defendant. It's about 20 to 25 minutes before Mr. O'Keefe comes out, and then he and Ms. Sullivan have a conversation. Ms. Sullivan indicates that Mr. O'Keefe's phone is essentially blowing up, lighting up with calls and texts from the defendant. I would submit similar to the afternoon of January 28th. Mr. O'Keefe says she's crazy and he needs to take this and goes off from Ms. Sullivan has later conversations with Mr. O'Keefe on this Aruba trip, asks him if he's okay, asks him if he's happy. She indicated in her testimony that Mr. O'Keefe shrugs it off and says it is what it is. You heard testimony from the children about the arguments in the weeks and the months. And I know this is a displeasure to the defense counsel that the children came in and actually testified as to what happened behind closed doors in the house. They both recall frequent fights. They both recall Mr. O'Keefe trying multiple times to break up with the defendant, asking her to leave the house, the defendant refusing to leave the house. His niece, Kaylee, John tried to diffuse, he tried to walk away, and the defendant would follow each time during each argument. They both indicated that Mr. O'Keefe had told the defendant that the relationship had run its course, similar to language within the text messages you have between the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe. That Mr. O'Keefe was sick of arguing, again, mirroring those text messages from January 28th, leading up into going out to see if McCarthy's, eventually the waterfall, and the defendant killing Mr. O'Keefe in the early morning hours of January 29th. We have testimony in regard to the ring camera. Kaylee indicated in her testimony that John had that for about a year. So during the course of 2 years or so of the relationship with the defendant, he got it while he was dating the defendant. The defendant had the security code.
Do you know why you shouldn't watch court TV? Yellow College Sale is correct and love the creative analogy. Let us hear what Plevin has to say of smart
Oh
things.
God, no! I already have to listen to Lally.
Is basically like the snuffleupagus. It's just not real. 27 search now is basically like the snuffleupagus. It's just not real. 27 search.
This is what a membership of Court TV gets you.
Wow. Which one is
This lady?
Plevin? James Bond. That's Bond. Oh my God, that's funny.
Neither of the kids had access to the camera. Mr. Bagorino checked the laptop and the desktop that were left after the defendant did the quick cleanup upstairs with the father, upstairs in the home. Neither of them
Did a quick cleanup. You have no evidence of what happened upstairs. You will at a later point imply that she went upstairs to delete Ring videos. Remember that? Then you found out that you couldn't access the Ring videos from upstairs because the computer was in the kitchen and it didn't have access to the Ring videos.
those devices had access to the Ring cameras. John had access on his phone. The defendant indicates, if you recall, in some of those text messages in regard to the romantic kiss that she placed on Mr. Higgins earlier on January, whatever it was, during the Patriots. Mr. Higgins and Mr. Jackson was indicating
placed on him.
Mr. O'Keefe, but had been
like
invited
Higgins was going, no,
Patriots
man, stop. I need an
It was
adult.
weird. I think she
And
was
she's
trying
like,
to use.
I place this upon you.
I'm blocked by Julie Grant from Court TV.
Nice. Congratulations.
I wrote
are you
yesterday
blocked and
on
I'm
her
not?
wall, aren't you supposed to be a lawyer? Fifth Amendment and stuff. That's all I wrote. And
That got you
me.
blocked? Wow.
Baker, again, how are you blocked when my first tweet on Twitter, when I didn't understand how reply and reply all work, I called her a twat waffle? I don't know how I'm not blocked.
Well,
Danny T is blocked too.
I've been trying to get blocked by Coffin Daffer. It hasn't happened yet.
Well,
Still
every
thinks
time
it.
I go in there, I just call her the greatest FBI agent since Hoover, so she won't block me.
Time the defendant escorted Mr. Higgins out of the garage and placed a romantic kiss on him. But during those text messages, when they're talking about that, if you recall, the defendant is saying something or joking about something that Mr. O'Keefe had been looking at the videos and had been asking her if there was something going on with her and Mr. Higgins. And what was her response to that? I know where the cameras are. There are only two videos missing from that Ring system. One being the defendant getting to Mr. O'Keefe's house after murdering him, and the other when the defendant is showing Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts the broken taillight, both of which, both Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts testified as having occurred. No video of that. The variety of stories that the defendant tells on the morning of January 29th. There were text messages and voicemails from the defendant to Mr. O'Keefe, 53 phone calls from 12:33 a.m. to 6:03 a.m. 0 phone calls to 911. The defendant calls Katie Camerano. The defendant calls her parents at 1:18 in the morning, 4:38 in the morning, 4:42 in the morning. The call then from Kaylee's phone to Ms. McCabe, because the defendant didn't have Ms. McCabe's phone number. Both Kaylee and Ms. McCabe indicate that the defendant initially
I don't
indicates
insult her.
or says that
Well,
she got into a fight with
but
Mr.
I'm nice
O'Keefe
about it.
and left him at the waterfall. From this information, Ms. McCabe then testifies she starts to call her Julie Albert, because Chris Albert, Julie Albert, they live close by the waterfall. Maybe that's where he went. As the phone is ringing, and this is a phone call to both Ms. Albert and Ms. McCabe.
Especially because he has Ring testifying that there is no deleted videos, but he still claims that there's deleted videos. They just don't want you to look at the facts.
Yeah.
Testify was never answered. As the phone is ringing, her husband Matthew McCabe reminds her that they saw the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe in the car outside of 34th Fairview, so she hangs up. During this call, or during these subsequent calls, the defendant indicates to Ms. McCabe, maybe I hit him, did I hit him? She then calls Ms. Roberts at 5 a.m. on the dot, indicates John's dead, hangs up the phone, calls back a minute later, indicates that Mr. O'Keefe was now hit by a plow and that he's dead, and then indicates further that she's drunk and doesn't remember. She tells Ms. McCabe about the cracked taillight before they even get in the vehicle and go anywhere, as you recall the testimony of Matthew McCabe, indicating that he has some concerns about them driving around in a vehicle with the damaged taillight in the middle of a
A
blizzard.
damaged, not a
Ms.
completely
Roberts'
caved
testimony
in
that
and
she saw the
broken.
broken taillight in the driveway at Ms. McCabe's house, and that it was consistent with what she observed in the photographs that were shown to her of it later in the Sally Port at the Canton Police Department garage when the search warrant is executed on February 1st. You have the text messages between the defendant and Lord Sullivan from January 29th, in which the defendant indicates to Lord Sullivan that John is dead, indicates that we found him in the snow at 5 a.m. And every indication is that he was found in the snow by defendant, Mr. McCabe, and Ms. Roberts around 6 a.m. 5 a.m. would be about an hour before. 5 a.m. would be between that time of where the defendant is unaccounted for, heading in the direction of 34 Fairview Road, 5:18 and 5:35. Little
5:18 and 5:30 is not 5
defendant asked Mr.
a.m.
McCabe to Google how long to die in the cold. She did so at 6:23 and 6:24 in the morning. You have the testimony of Ms. Hyde and Mr. Whitton as to SQLite databases,
Baker,
P-list
can you pause
databases,
it?
Knowledge C data.
Yeah.
So after this is after we've watched the full trial.
Yeah.
Could you explain to me exactly how the experts convinced you that Jen McCabe did this at 6:45 in the morning?
Well, she was in the car when Karen was talking about a period while she was on the dash cam outside of the car. And then Karen asked her to search it while she was walking up to the house where she called her brother. And if you don't...
Ah, well, I was just hoping, like, from the C subsection subfile of this particular cache, we would have, you know, the Google llama tree of all the, tangents of the cell phone.
Well, I didn't understand one word any of the experts said about wall files, hack files, hashtags, hash marks, benchmarks, bench press. All of that was mumbo jumbo. The only thing I know is at the time she is inside the car searching, according to the dash cam on the car, she's outside of the car. That's all I know. Maybe a small detail that they will fix by saying, well, the camera was off, even though they never claimed that before. But I believe at 6:32, you can see her on the dash cam of the car standing outside, and then she sneaks up to the house. Remember, she never ever mentioned that before either, that we saw that video where she goes up to the house. No one really talked about that before.
And yes, notice, Baker, we're 32 minutes in, and have we gotten into how the taillight exploded, how, John went up over the curb into all the way into the yard, how he got that head injury?
But the text, Mo.
I know.
She wrote a text, I'm having a drink now at 3 in the afternoon. Have you considered that? Aruba? I'm just saying Aruba.
Well, I mean, I did consider that she started her noontime drinking 3 hours late. I mean, party foul.
It was a Friday. No, she did let them have their notes for deliberation. That's why they take notes. So, yeah.
Databases, state DB tabs, as far as all of that, also from Super Garino as well. These searches were unequivocally done at 6:23, 6:24 in the morning, and not at 2:27 and 40 seconds in the morning. They were not deleted by a user. That is not what deleted means. Frankly, Mr. Green, the last question that I asked Mr. Green is, was he aware that Cellbrite, and by Cellbrite, the person who designed that being Mr. Whiffen, had to alter.
He didn't design it. He was a
exactly how
seller.
their software.
This is the thing they need to get out of him if he's called back, Mr. Whiffen. What, if any, part of the Cellbrite data did you write?
Yeah. Point to the specific code.
I'm the guy who talks to the customers and then tells the developer what they need. That's not my question. The Commonwealth has alleged that you are the one who developed this software. What was your specific role in developing the software of Cellbrite? Well, I called them and said, hey, can we have something that blinks in the corner and maybe make it look kind of flashy on the other side? So you had no knowledge of the internal workings of Cellbrite. you are just a sales rep. Yes, sir. And I have my own free program that tens of people have downloaded that you now need in the only case in the universe. You need this program to understand Cellbrite. Anyone who has ever worked with Cellbrite before knows Cellbrite is super easy. It's very intuitive. It'll state clearly the time, who wrote who, from sometimes you'll even get the GPS address from where they took a picture or where they sent a text message. Then it'll say, if it's a text message, it will say, hey, honey, pick me up at 2 a.m. And it'll say who sent it to whom, at what date, at what time. All of this is very intuitive. But apparently in this case, out of the hundreds of thousands of cases where they use Cellbrite, this is the only case where there was a bug that made sure that this search, the only deleted search she ever made out of 36,000 searches, this search was not made at that time. Every other case, it's perfect except this one.
Every other person that's ever been imprisoned due to a text message at a certain time, never been an issue before up until just now, this case. Hi.
Yeah. Again, we watched it in the Dr. Turk case. Everything was fine. They didn't say, oh, by the way, we did make sure that we got the updated version because this case happened before 2022, where we found out there was a big bug in the second Cellbrite. Yeah. Nope, didn't even mention that. And that would be really important now. Camden found out that there's a bug in the Cellbrite system. And I still want Cellbrite to send a tech guy to tell us exactly why this case alone had this bug. Was it the phone? Was it the computer who read it? Where is exactly that one bug in this one case?
No, the one guy said it was. That's why, Baker. That's why.
Yeah, the sales rep
said he
said
had an English accent. I automatically assumed he was smarter than me.
Yeah. As always. Always go with the Brits. Why do they always pay bad guys?
Worked because of people like Mr. Green misinterpreting the data as he did in this case. And what did Mr. Green say? Yes. But those questions, as far as how long to die in the cold, I would submit mirror the questions that the defendant asked firefighter Whitley in the back of the ambulance, if you recall those. She asked firefighter Whitley how long to die in the cold without a jacket. She knew how Mr. O'Keefe was dressed. She knew when she left him to die in the cold how he was dressed. The defendant made statements to firefighter Becker that the last time that she saw Mr. O'Keefe, they were in an argument. Again, in the back of the same ambulance as firefighter Whitley. You have testimony from firefighter Woodbury. Same kind of questions. If Mr. O'Keefe could be alive without a jacket. You have the testimony from each of these firefighters as to sort of the vacillating emotional state of the defendant that morning. What you have in the testimony from firefighter Woodbury is that despite all that, there were no tears that he observed from the defendant at that time. What each of those first responders indicate is that the defendant repeatedly stated, is he dead? Is he dead? Not is he okay? Is he going to be okay?
Which is totally normal. She had just done CPR on him.
How is he? Any sort of questions about...
She found him with no pulse and not breathing.
Is he dead? That phraseology over again.
Did he get a boo-boo?
80 degrees.
Why didn't she ask, did he get a boo-boo? Is it okay? Can we kiss and make it better? Why did she go straight to, is he dead? Because she's standing with his blood on her face, you idiot.
She found him dead, literally.
She's in shock and grief. Newsflash, grief can look like you can go into straight, I need to function. I'm going to ask questions. You can come off as very stoic. You can go hysterical. But if you're me, you go into a very stoic, everything is shut down. What do we need to do next?
Do you know we are the stupid people? This is why the antis are the smartest people. I was watching Karen Reed. Small spello videos last night and heard that Hank got a little
to ease. So
Hank got a little over 200,000. I think Hank is going to give the family a break on this case after all they've been through.
Does she think that the family's paying Hank Brennan?
Yeah. Remember, we are the conspiracy idiots. These are the people who will buy Pleven's book. Oh.
I'm glad Twitter's a thing.
Juxtaposition. That phraseology. Text to Laura Sullivan. Found him in the snow at 5 a.m. The unaccounted for time heading in the direction of 34 Fairview Road, 5:18, 5:35. The repeated questioning, firefighter Whitney, firefighter Woodbury, asking Miss McCabe to look up those things in her phone. She's looking for
Don't
confirmation.
troll anyone.
Is what she's looking for when she asks over and over.
Don't go and be mean to them. Remember, she has to live with that brain every day.
I disagree. Let's make public shaming great again. That's what I say. We
TOS say you can't make those statements. Well, Hala, we have dual trio
I am
streaming.
not saying that we should go attack any one individual. I'm just saying that when people say stupid things, collectively society should be like, that's effing stupid. That's what I'm saying.
Directionally, we should move in that direction.
I think we should be allowed to call people stupid when they're stupid.
I agree.
Because
wholeheartedly.
I don't like. You shouldn't go around being a bully, but when people are this asinine and they think I can write a book with no facts in it and claim it's facts, you should be allowed to say, no, you're a human thumb-like looking guy who lives in his mom's attic. You should probably try to learn how to write just a CV and then get on with it. Court TV expert isn't a job, bozo.
Yeah. Is he dead? Is he dead?
I was going to put it on my LinkedIn. Baker
You have the
killing
testimony that you heard from Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts. I say them together because as far as these two women were concerned, they did not know each other really at all. The only time, as they both testified to, that they ever spent appreciably together prior to January 29, 2022 is when Mr. O'Keefe nicely took them out for sneakers because he had some sort of deal at a Reebok's outlet or something like that to sort of try to pay them back for the help that they provided him and the children. Jennifer with respect to the niece and Kerry with respect to the nephew. But they're both contacted by the defendant in the early morning of January 29th. As Ms. McCabe testified, John was my friend. I love John. He was an amazing guy. At the waterfall, Mr. Albert said going home to have a drink with his son, Brian Jr., if anyone wants to come. Open invitation to the table. She said to Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, you guys should come. Both the defendant and the victim indicated that they wanted.
Anyone. Well, you just looked at it again. You just probably, because I didn't see all of Jen's testimony because I was sitting on the Lanai in Tennessee. Is it well established that Jen and John were the bestest of friends in the world?
Jen McCabe testified that they were close friends and that she loved him.
But the only thing I have heard of their previous stuff is before Karen came into her life, she was kind of helping a little bit with the kids.
With one of the kids, with the girl, because her daughter was friends with the girl and they were on several sports teams together. So Jen McCabe would give her rides to and from and such.
Is that being the bestest friends in the world?
Well, according to Jen McCabe, it is.
Yeah.
He was my friend and I loved him. That's what she said.
And I'm just sitting because I've seen it so many places that why would she do anything? She loved John. She had been there for him. Didn't she get pissy when Karen came in and he didn't need her anymore because she is Rachel McAdams from Mean Girls?
It was something I noticed in the first trial, how very possessive these women were of John O'Keefe. It was very much like, we didn't really know Karen. Like, we'd met her and stuff, but like she was all uppity. You know, again, like we're the quirky, like, you know, adorable, like girl next door. And, you know, Karen is this mean girl. It was just this very weird, like they were very possessive of John's time, of, you know, we were friends first.
I think that has developed since John's passing. I don't
Yeah.
believe they would have had the same take before when he was still
Well,
alive.
and that's what it does seem put upon.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know who attended John's funeral. The only thing I know is that Karen didn't go, and everyone is mad about that, but she wasn't allowed to go. So that's I don't put anything, because again, as Mo said earlier, emotions are weird. Some people couldn't go to a funeral because it'll hurt too much. Some people will dance and pee on someone's grave. You never know.
And that they work. She describes phone calls and text messages that she receives from Mr. O'Keefe, that she's providing directions. She indicates she's providing them directions to go down Chapman. She describes how that is. And you've heard this testimony from a couple of different witnesses as far as the steepness as you're going down Chapman, excuse me, going down Fairview or coming off of Chapman. But you first go down a big steep hill. It flattens out for a little bit, and then you go down a second. 2 hills going down on Chapman.
This is the stupidest explanation of
It's the stupidest.
Anyone who has tried to cheat their pedometer by shaking their hand or waving their phone to try and get a few more steps and knows
By what?
this
Shaking their hand? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
That was the first
Thanks
67
for
mile
that,
per hour walk ever.
But anyone who owns a smartphone and has owned a smartphone within the last 15 years knows that's not how it works. It's such a stupid explanation. Well,
Yeah,
she
you gotta
drove
tie
down
it to
hills.
a fan.
I took it as all these women were in bad relationships and were jealous they weren't with John. I think all of these ladies would be in bad relationships no matter who they were in a relationship with. Because kind of like if everyone you meet on your way is an asshole, maybe it's a you problem. I think a lot of these ladies have a very big, very high dislikability score. Because they seem just like Rachel McAdams, especially Jen. Carrie is the talkative one.
Matching.
Yeah, she's a talker.
GPS native location and the health data as far as where the Mr. O'Keefe's phone is, a half mile
Mom,
away from 34 Fairview Road at the time that his health data is recording that he's ascending or descending 3 flights of stairs. You hear the testimony from Ms. McCabe as far as the last time that she spoke to Mr. O'Keefe. And she's still trying to provide directions to Fairview because Mr. O'Keefe has never been there before, and neither has the defendant, which is further corroborated in Trooper Garino's testimony as far as the vehicle passing by Fairview and then coming back in on the other side, having to reverse direction. But she's giving directions, and she indicates that she uses a house that Mr. O'Keefe will be familiar with, that belonging to Bella or Bella's mom. Bella's mom is an ex-girlfriend for a short period of time, from a long time ago. However, in the defendant's mind, it's so prescient on her mind.
Do we have any statement from Karen Reed at any point talking about Bella's mom? Do
No.
we have any statements before the trial? Because I can't remember if it popped up before that Karen Reed was screaming about
interview.
What?
Possibly in that first interview. I don't remember for sure, but I think I recall something about her talking about how Jen was pointing out the ex's house on the way there or something. But I could be I could be misremembering that.
Do we have anyone other than Jen talking about Bella's mom? Because Karen didn't know where Fairview 34 was. How the hell should she know where Bella's mom lived? Again, it's one of these let's just implant this so people think she's a bad one without any proof, because she's so very toxic and so very jealous. But the only thing is you're out fucking a girl. She's not saying you're fucking Bella's mom. If she was so scared of Catherine, whatever her name is, she would have said, you're fucking Catherine again. I know you're fucking that hoe. She wouldn't say you're out fucking a girl. Fucking a girl is a girl. If you are...
She would have had someone in there. She would have said, you're going over to that chick's house. Or, I know you were hugging Jen way too long.
Yeah. Well, it's. I was just using the same language that she used in her messages. I think Jen said it on the phone to John, so Karen would only know if the call was on speaker. And have we proof of that? That's also Jen's statement
Version.
that when she was given directions, she said something about this girl.
I think Matt McCabe might have also said the same in his testimony. I think he might have mentioned it too.
But how does he know he wasn't there?
In the car with Jen McCabe on the way to 34 Fairview? Yeah, he was. Jen was driving.
He was at home. He
sitting
never went
passenger.
to 34 Fairview that night.
No. No,
Did
he
Matt-
was in the car. They left the waterfall. Matt McCabe was one of the
Was he?
yeah.
I'm
he
thinking
was
of
sitting passenger seat.
I'm thinking about Chris Albert. Sorry. He went home.
Yeah, he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Chris Albert supposedly went home.
But again, yeah, she's talking about. So what?
Yeah, that was something that they obviously had talked about after the fact, right? So that may or may not have ever happened. Those two are the only ones that could have confirmed it, aside from John and Karen, and it's kind of irrelevant either way, if I'm being honest.
And that's why I'm asking that. Did anyone else ever hear anything about John effing some other chick? No, all of this is, we need to explain why I said something to her in the car. So, I mentioned it the day before. Louise is adding to the swear jar fund. Thank you.
Nice.
That's for my F word. John was not there. I don't know. I don't know.
Matt McCabe? When Matt... Yeah, he was. Matt McCabe left the waterfall with Jen McCabe. They went to 34 Fairview. And Matt McCabe was sitting in the passenger seat, and Jen's phone connected to speaker because Matt was like, why don't you just call him instead of text him because you're driving? So Matt McCabe was there. Matt McCabe was absolutely there.
Also, Baker and Valhalla, when you and, let's say, ladies do you drive or do you let your wives drive the car? Now, I know this is a big divide. I let Mr. Mo drive because that's why I got married. I like to be chauffeur.
That's how much I drank.
To be fair, that is a good point. But these macho cop guys letting their girlfriends drive?
I think when I was married, my wife, she liked to drive, but I think it's just a thing that the guy drives.
Generally speaking, yeah.
And I don't think about it. It's just, that's how it is. And I don't think we ever had a discussion saying, hey, I'm the breadwinner in this house. I'm gonna drive, little lady. But I do remember that time where she, I can't remember. She picked me up somewhere and we were driving and she got a speeding ticket. And that was also my fault because I should have told her that they could have had a radar detection zone, even though they always had a radar detection zone at the bottom of that hill. And I've told her multiple times that remember to put it down in third gear so you don't go too fast because they're always down there. That was also my fault. So that's why I drove.
Yeah, that checks out.
Baker, what had you done to piss her off? Because we are now learning through this trial that any single female driving, aberration is caused by anger caused by a man. So what were you doing wrong, Baker?
Well, a lot. I had the wrong hair color. I had the wrong eye color. There's a lot of things that I really felt was kind of not my fault, but I'll ask her for a list and I'll cut down half the Amazon so you can get that list.
She's still talking about it the next morning or later on that morning when she's riding, going towards Fairview Road with Miss Roberts and Miss McCabe in Miss Roberts' car. She's still talking about it at that time. It's that much on her mind.
No, that's what Jen McCabe was claiming. I don't even think Carrie Roberts confirmed that she was talking about all these other women he was banging. She's also hysterical and screaming.
Ms. McCabe indicated that she looked out. She saw the vehicle initially in front of the front door, as did Mr. McCabe, as did Brian Albert Jr., as did Julie Nagel, Brian Nagel, and the vehicle moved up several times for several spots to where it was then positioned. Initially at some point in front of the door, then it moves up further so that it's in the area of the fire hydrant and the flagpole where Mr. O'Keefe's body was discovered later on that morning, at least by Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts. And then moves up further beyond that. And I say that in the sense that it moves up further beyond that with sufficient distance for it to then go in reverse for 62.5 feet at 24.2 miles per hour, striking Mr. O'Keefe and leaving him where he was found later on the 29th.
Except that
Again,
there was a
the
Jeep
testimony
there.
from on that. And I say that in the sense that it moves up further beyond that with sufficient distance for it to then go in reverse for 62.5 feet at 24.2 miles per hour, striking Mr. O'Keefe and leaving him.
I just heard it as meters, so I thought, oh, that's a hell of a hot
Again, the testimony from Ms. McCabe that about 12:40 when she
Whoa,
texted
whoa,
him, she
that's
indicated
a
in her
lot
testimony
longer
she
than
couldn't be
feet.
certain if Mr. O'Keefe was still out front or had left at that point. She wakes up to a phone call from John's niece, Kaylee, at 4:53 in the morning. This is from an 8th grader, 14-year-old girl. That's why she answers the phone at 4:53 in the morning. She then hears the defendant screaming loudly over and over again, Jen. John didn't come home, got in a fight, left him at the waterfall. The variations, the different iterations of that story as it evolves and changes over the course of that morning. Ms. McCabe then indicates to the defendant, we saw you outside of my sister's house. Then she starts yelling, Jen, did I hit him? Could I hit him? Then they start discussing, or the defendant brings up her cracked tailbone. Then both Ms. McCabe and Mr. McCabe hear the defendant screaming outside of their home at about 5 o'clock in the morning, or shortly after 5 o'clock. They go to Mr. O'Keefe's house. And both Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts indicates, and you heard this testimony from a number of different witnesses, friends and family of Mr. O'Keefe, that he had a rule, pretty strict rule in his house as far as you take your shoes off when you come in the house. And so what did Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts both do when they're entering in that
part
This is the
was always
stupidest
such
thing.
bullshit to me.
I don't
So,
understand
take off
what
their
he's
boots in the
trying
mudroom
to
and then they
prove
walk.
there.
What did they both
Right? Like,
indicate
oh,
to the defendant
clearly she
that morning when
knew
she came
that
back to the house?
he was going to be
Walk
able
right
to yell
in.
at her for having her shoes on.
hear
Like,
that
what?
second voice?
It's the stupidest.
It's after the
She's
defendant
like,
arrived
screw
back
you,
1 minute
John. I
after
ran
her
you
phone
over,
was
but I'm going to
connected,
use my
with
Nikes on
Mr.
your
O'Keefe's wife.
on your Berber
You can
carpet
hear
and like,
footsteps. Part of that may be in the
Jesus.
garage, part of that might be in the house.
Oh,
in her
Why is it that the
K-Swiss,
defendant
you know.
has no issue with wearing shoes in the house when Mr. O'Keefe has that strict rule? Because she knows where he is. She knows it's not an issue. He's not coming home because she hit him with her SUV, that she left him in the snow.
how does he say
By
that with a
that
straight
logic,
face?
my kids should assume that I'm dead
Ms.
all
Roberts
the
and Ms.
time
McCabe,
because they do shit
Right.
they're not
He's sort of
supposed
running
to
around the
do.
house looking for Mr. O'Keefe, and it's not. They then get in the vehicle. They drive back towards Fairview Road, and again, the defendant from the backseat of the vehicle immediately sees the defendant, starts pulling and kicking on the door, and runs in sort of a beeline straight over to where Mr. O'Keefe is laying on the front lawn. We have the testimony from Ms. Roberts as far as John's phone. John's phone, when the firefighters pick him up, and recall several witnesses testifying about that, pick him up on scoop stretcher and then bring him over to the ambulance while they're conducting resuscitative efforts trying to save Mr. O'Keefe's life. But Ms. Roberts indicated that she observed underneath it, only the phone on the grass. On the grass in the area that is completely covered in snow in every other area except under Mr. O'Keefe, which I would submit indicates how long Mr. O'Keefe has been there. Now recall, around 12 o'clock or so is when it starts to snow and starts to stick a little bit. And you heard all that testimony. And I know it was a lot of testimony about snow, a lot of testimony about weather, but there's a purpose to that. There's a point to that, okay? As far as the grass.
That's not an
underneath Mr.
evidence.
O'Keefe's
Lie,
body where his cell phone
objection,
was, Ms.
someone
Roberts
object.
observed some 6 hours later after it starts snowing, it's still visible only under Mr. O'Keefe where his body is, which I would submit as evidence to you as to how long he's been there.
Except there was already snow on the ground when they drove there, because you showed us the video from the library. There was snow on the ground. So would it indicate that his body heat had melted the snow underneath him? I would submit to you, Mr. Lallygagger, that that is also a possibility.
Baker, are you a meteorologist? How do you know what happens to snow when someone's laying on the ground? How dare you, Baker?
I am told by one of the cleverest people I know and award-winning author in Spay that I am too stupid to understand how snow melts. So I'm just making it up as I go.
I know how it melts.
Now, on top of
Based
that,
on temperature.
you also have hours of ring videos of the driveway.
CERN would have to reverse their reactor to combat that black hole of what if any's.
Oh God.
It would take 4 days for them to do a traffic citation.
and and Elaine would be like, Your Honor, I'm trying.
And Lally will just be, what if, I mean, I would surmise if whatever.
Oh, my bad. My bad. I missed.
Can we have a smoke break?
As far as shoveling and Paul O'Keefe and other people snow blowing and shoveling and all those kinds of things. There's a purpose of that as well. If you look at those, if you look at the video of the defendant crashing into Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle at a speed of anywhere from 0 to 5, which even Dr. Wolf would have.
His hand gestures are just so girly.
Try listening to this.
There's a purpose of that as well. If you look at those, if you look at the video of the defendant crashing into Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle at a speed of anywhere from 0 to 5, which even Dr. Wolf would have.
Crashing.
He admits
crashing
that she hit
into
the car.
Yeah, but crashing, that's no one said she crashed into the car. She bumped the car, and you can tell. He was the guy who said she never touched the car until court TV showed that there was that little revolution of the rear tire, so he couldn't lie about it anymore.
Indicate would not cause the damage to the taillight that was observed in this case. You know what you don't see? You don't see snow move off Mr. O'Keefe's
cops
vehicle
caused that
when they come
damage.
into contact. You don't see any red or clear plastic pieces in the snow. And if you look at those stills, not the ones that counsel put up there during his closing, but if you look at each of the video and the stills, you can see the damage consistent with the taillight at each and every point. You see the damage consistent with the taillight from the 507 video. You see the damage consistent from the 822 video from Lieutenant Ray from the cruiser camera video when he's pulling into the driveway.
And what can't you see in that? Any of the damage, because it's such grainy pictures with so low res camera. And now we know that I can't remember BX, B5, whatever his name is, who bought the exact same tail light. It's a red LED. It's a white LED. So no, it's a red LED. No, a white LED. Now I have, okay. Well, if the glass was missing, it wouldn't have looked in the way they claim it did. And it's, I hate this guy.
I think it's a red LED so that it wouldn't look white. Yeah.
And it would be missing that diffuser that would cast it out, because it's just a red light going down into a diffuser.
Well, yeah, and in the early photos, I mean, there is snow on there. How is the snow not caving into the cavern that's created by all of these, plastic pieces being gone? How does that snow not get in there, but it creates a dome that mimics, that glass being there still?
Yeah, especially because it would concave in, because there's actually a little shelf it'll be lying on.
You see the damage consistent from the Dighton video at the defendant's home. You see the damage consistent from the right here, February 1st, 2022, when the search warrant is conducted, Ms. Hartnett removes all those pieces from the vehicle. The weather is also important when it comes to the hair. The magic hair, as Mr. Jackson likes to call it. See, the magic hair was actually frozen to the vehicle, as was the glass to the bumper, because the vehicle looked like that on the left when it was caked in snow, and Officer Barrow saw it in the driveway.
So it would have washed off when the snow melted. When you put it in a heated garage, you absolute pillock of an idiot. Your argument makes no sense. No sense. And let me, this is the tail light that's missing. Totally cromulent. And up here is that little dent that my good friend Wendy Murphy claims is from when John threw a glass at the car. So in this description, this is where his elbow would have hit, because that's the one that trashes the tail light. And this is where his hand would have made that dent. Why is none of this damaged?
Well, there's no damage on his forearm, so.
Yeah, and how this is where the elbow hit. How did his upper arm and his lower arm get cut up by this part of the tail light when his hand was out here?
How
If
did
his hand
his
is here,
legs
how
not get
far is
any
this?
damage?
I
Nothing
think
else got damaged, Mo. His head.
I think this car is around 2 meters, 2.3 meters wide. His forearm would have, if it had to hit that part of the tail gate, it wouldn't.
It couldn't have been his elbow.
It couldn't have been his elbow, and the corner couldn't have bit his arm, and it couldn't have been his upper arm because he would have had to have it flat. To you want to have the elbow. I think is the second hardest bone in your body after your skull, or maybe your knees are, but it's a really hard
They're
point.
hard. So in fighting, right, Muay Thai, they use elbows and knees and more than they even use fists and feet typically, because it's a much harder part of the body to strike with. It's a much more effective means to cause damage. Yeah.
I don't
But,
know. Have you ever struck your elbow like real bad and you are like incapacitated for like 30 seconds because your body's like, damn it, what the hell did you do to me? We don't know if we need to laugh or cry.
But to again buy this theory that the elbow did this, you would have to have the elbow in kind of a onwards, because if you get it on
Okay, but you guys, if he was throwing the shot glass right here like a Heisman, so he's going this way.
No, that was the
then
left hand. That was the left hand. That's what Wendy Murphy said, because he needs that glass to spin with him.
Look, I may be as dumb as Plevin claims I am. I do not tell my left and my right.
That was amazing.
But again, you need the elbow to be in line with your body because the second you get your elbow out here, it's the shoulder that it hinges on. And the shoulder is, I don't know if you do any shoulder exercises, but
no,
your rotator cuff is actually a really shitty muscle. That's one of those that goes all the time. It's not really easy to stabilize, especially when you get 6,000 pounds put up against it. And again, how does it bite on both sides of his elbow? And only hits this little bitty part of the tail light. I can't
imagine. Go ahead, sorry.
I don't get how they can still keep going with this theory. I just don't get it.
It's crazy. I can't imagine getting hit hard enough in the arm to knock you off your feet without toppling you over first, right? Like, he didn't get his knees or legs hit by the car. It was somehow enough force on the elbow only to launch him completely without ever hitting another part of his body. It doesn't make like it
and not leaving any mark on the elbow.
No way. There's no way.
Well, remember, guys, they showed that itty bitter, like little bug bite bruise on his knee. Do you remember that? It looked like maybe they're like, yes, he does too have injuries on his legs.
Yeah, and why is the windshield wiper in the upright position?
I was looking at that in the very, very beginning, but I'm assuming this was the when they pulled up to John O'Keefe's house, right? And her car was still there. This from the dash cam. I believe that they had to start the car to put it on the tow truck and then to put it in the garage and also for the driver's test. So I would assume that back windshield wiper just turns on every time the car gets turned on.
Well, it could be it's an automatic,
Indictment as they were wading through 1.5 feet of snow, walking up, because remember, they didn't even pull into the driveway because they had to have someone come down and plow it before they could get into it.
What does it have to do with anything?
What you can see, however, is the damage to the taillight, to the side of that taillight, consistent with it. So that hair, that 7/8 of an inch hair, was frozen to the side. And as you remember, the testimony from Sergeant Buchanan about the heated condition of the Canton Police Department garage, and that's one of the reasons that they took it there, because the other barracks that they could have taken it to didn't have that heated condition. So yes, after it's been in there from January 29th, about 5:30 p.m. until February 1st, when they conduct the search warrant, the hair isn't still frozen, as it's contained within a heated garage, and the pieces of glass on the rear bumper have melted. The snow has melted, as you can see from left to right.
Yes, the magic hair is not on the tail. It's on the side in front of the tail light. But again, there's no strike of his head. So how did this magic hair get imprinted so hard that it survived 2 days frozen to the car? Don't think about it.
And then
Also, it was in his garage most of the time. Like he had finding a piece of hair of John O'Keefe's anywhere in that vehicle is not strange. It's not even pointing to, without blood evidence, without blood splatter on the attached to that hair, that proves nothing. It proves absolutely nothing. No, it was on the rear quarter panel.
It was on the right rear quarter panel in front of the tail light. I think that's another thing that defense should have brought up, that it's not consistent with their theory.
The weather, also important, I would submit. Weather was a weapon. Remember, the cause of death here is not just blunt impact injuries. It's blunt impact injuries and hypothermia.
Sleuthy, do you have that weather report, how much it snowed? I thought I saw it in one of your... I've been looking for it and I can't find it because I know it's out there, that weather report, that how much it snowed that day. So if you have it, can you DM it to me? Slide into my DMs. Wow.
Heard all that medical testimony in relation to, when you heard all that testimony in relation to,
yes, the weather was wet.
And the wind gusts up to 37 miles per hour while he's out. Mr. O'Keefe is out there in just a shirt and jeans.
Exactly, Brandon.
You heard also testimony from Ms. Roberts in relation to the injuries she observed to Mr. O'Keefe. That initially on scene, there was one eye that was swollen, not the other. That's indication of the swelling that Dr. Sportibello was testifying to, with no indication of physical altercation. And then both eyes being swollen when Ms. Roberts viewed Mr. O'Keefe's body after his passing. That's the Good Samaritan.
Yeah.
Submit that all the testimony tells you the same consistent account, internally, externally, from civilian testimony to investigator testimony to medical testimony to forensic testimony to the reconstruction testimony. You have the testimony.
That is the weakest knife hand I have ever seen.
When they initially pulled up, you can see that from Officer Saraf's cruiser. You have Mr. O'Keefe being covered in snow from the storm. You know where Mr. O'Keefe's body was. It's clearly visible on the cruiser camera from Officer Saraf.
Do you do the underhand knife hand, Valhalla?
I actually do a modified where I bend in that index finger a little bit.
Oh hell, that's terrifying.
That's the Bowie knife hand.
Gotta get that right up in the. It's good. It's good.
I'm late to the party. I was in speech therapy with Colin. But I love that I was watching, I can't remember, and someone did the underhand knife hand. That's you know, he's been in the Marine.
One. Yeah, that's that underhand. That's sneaky. You got to watch out for that one. It'll get you off guard.
Have testimony from each of the responding officers, anywhere from 5 to 12 feet off the roadway, and from the civilians as well. Ms. McCabe, Ms. Roberts, Officer Mulaney has 6 inches of snow on Mr. O'Keefe when he first sees him. Firefighter Kelly says that he couldn't even see Mr. O'Keefe until he was 5 feet away, in the darkness, in the snow, in the blizzard conditions. There's no footprints around the body. There's no drag marks around the body.
6 inches of
There's
snow?
no evidence of anything in relation to Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. Brian Albert and Brian Higgins spent January 28, 2022, traveling to New York City to go to a funeral for another police officer, for another department, who they didn't even know. Traveled all the way down to New York and then came back before the blizzard, only to come back from that to go out drinking.
They didn't go together.
To Mr. Albert's house,
they came back
to
together.
then murder another police officer who they did know, who worked for the same department as them. And then criminal mastermind genius that Brian Albert is, 28 years on the Boston Police Department, he's then going to just leave Mr. O'Keefe's body on its front lawn? Really?
Yeah. Why is that a stretch? He's been a police detective for 28 flipping years. He clearly understands what needs to take place to not get caught for a crime, right? That man, if anybody else, knows exactly how to get away with the ending of another person.
A man who's highly connected to the local PD, who gets Sergeant Goody to call an off-duty cop to go take care of the crime scene. It's totally impossible to believe that guy, with his 28 years of connections, could have thought of anything like that, saying, hey, it's going to snow out. Let's jump in, because now I saw him at the fire hydrant, which is way closer to the road than I initially thought he was. the plow's going to get him. Let's just say that, or let's just say he slipped and hit his head on the fire hydrant. He walked out of. I've said this a million times. He falls inside the house. He gets a head injury. That's why he pukes in his shorts. I still haven't gotten any explanation for the puke on his pants. No explanation.
On his drawers, not his pants, on his underwear. I guess it could have seeped through his pants, but it was on his underwear and his pants.
And again, don't think about how gravity works, because
the blood that trailed all on his clothes from clearly standing up.
But if I wanted to get away with that and say, fuck it, I'm off the force. This guy just let's throw him out and say, well, he had an accident, fell inside the house, got up after he puked, and he was all kabobulated. And we said, hey, buddy, let's call the ambulance. Fuck all of you. I hate all of you. And he walked out the house, and we didn't see him. And he must have fell and hit his head on the fire hydrant. It's a way better explanation than Karen Reed took her 6,000-pound vehicle, slammed it in reverse, went up to 24.3 miles per hour, hit him, leaving no indication she hit him, and then drove off and called him a pervert on text messages.
And you're telling me at a house party, there's got to be at least one smoker or people going in and out. You didn't hear the screeching of these wheels. No one heard this. No one was, going in and out. And
they all testified that they didn't all testify, but everybody that lived there testified that you can hear the bulkhead door open from where they were sitting in the kitchen, and that nobody heard it, right? But they couldn't possibly hear a vehicle slamming in reverse at 24 miles an hour into another person. Like it doesn't make sense. You can hear a door open from the basement, but you can't hear a vehicle crash outside that caused the death of a
How
human
loud
being.
was Raining Men playing?
Yeah, it got louder each iteration.
And Sleuthy came through.
Nice, Sleuthy.
3.3
Awesome
inches at 7 a.m. on the 29th.
Yeah,
Ladies,
that checks out. Definitely like not 6. Definitely.
Well, you only have to do it twice, and then it's 6 inches. But that's the snowfall in inches. Yeah, and then you have the blowing, and you can have a buildup. But this is 3 inches is what buries him completely under snow, and no one could find him, and they had to use leaf blowers. This is after his body was found. They had 3 inches.
And that's not that hour, right? That's cumulative throughout the evening.
No, that's at 7 a.m. It's measured at 3.3 millimeter. 3.3 inches
for the whole storm.
Yeah.
This blizzard, this snowpocalypse.
Yeah, that's not enough to cover a 216-pound man.
I did try to get Mr. Mo to lay down when it was snowing earlier this winter to see how long it would take to get the snow to cover him.
They really need to be extremely thorough with the neuropathologist and have her repeat in elementary terms. Her testimony can be pivotal. They need to really go and again, stay away from all the third-party culprit. It's fun when we do it because we don't have to get Karen Reed off the hook. Stay with all the physical evidence.
What evidence do you have of that? You have statements that the defendant made to Sergeant Mechanic on January 29th. She was willing to speak, but didn't want to give too much detail. Conversational tone throughout. She indicated that the night before, they had gotten into an argument, something about what was fed to the children, nothing about the details.
I think because Bev had put restrictions on what visuals they could use.
Arguments and incessant phone calls and everything else that you saw from the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe's phone on the 28th. She indicated that she got to CF McCarthy's around 9 p.m., started drinking vodka sodas. The men were drinking beers. When asked where she parked her vehicle, she said she parked on Washington Street across from CF McCarthy's, facing northbound on the side, same side as Waterfall. Same testimony that you heard from Ms. Kolakithis, observing the defendant going over to her vehicle, getting in the driver's seat, and the victim, Mr. O'Keefe, getting into the passenger seat. She said they left the waterfall, were invited to her residence. She drove her and John to the location in Ken. She dropped Mr. O'Keefe off, did not see him walk into the home. She, being the defendant, stated she made a 3-point turn and then left. When asked about the damage to her vehicle, she indicated to the troopers, "I don't know, it happened last night."
He was 6'2", 216 pounds.
Yep.
And the emojis, I don't understand.
June 2022, you have that other recording of that other version that she now has evolved
Language
into
barrier.
as far as stating to Sergeant Buchanan, "Are you aware that John was beaten up by Brian and Colin Albert? We're all in on the same joke, right? John was pulverized and my taillight was cracked." What evidence do you have of that? Mr. O'Keefe never went in the house. You have testimony from Nicole Albert, Brian Albert, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Caitlin Albert, Brian Albert Jr., Sarah Levinson, Julie Nagel, all indicating never went in the house. John O'Keefe's phone never went in the house from the testimony and the data points that you have from Trooper Green. You know how Mr. O'Keefe was dressed, and you know the defendant knew that. You have the testimony from Kurt Roberts, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Karina Kolakithis, Nicholas Kolakithis, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Brian Higgins, all indicated in the testimony, and the defendant knew, based on our questions to the firefighters the next morning, that Mr. O'Keefe was not dressed for the weather when he left the waterfall. The weather was a weapon. You have the testimony about the car, the defendant's car being there in front of the house, moving multiple times. You have that from multiple sources. You have that from Matthew McCabe. You have that from Jennifer McCabe. You have that from Brian Albert Jr. You have that from Julie Nagel. You have that from Ryan Nagel. You have the testimony of Ryan Nagel, Ricky D'Antonio, and Heather Maxson. Ms. Maxson indicated she saw a male passenger, female operator as the vehicle was turning. So remember, they're coming towards Fairview at the same time. The defendant, after conducting that reverse, a 3-point turn on Cedar Crest, is then taking a right on Fairview, while Mr. Nagel, Mr. D'Antonio, and Ms. Maxson are taking a left on Fairview. Mr. Nagel indicates that Mr. D'Antonio then flashes lights. During that time, Ms. Maxson can see inside the vehicle. She sees a male passenger. She sees a female operator. They follow the vehicle as they're turning onto the street. Lo and behold, they're going to the same residence. They park. There's nothing in between them and the defendant's vehicle.
Oops.
What about the Jeep?
Where's the
What
Jeep?
about the Jeep, Lally? What about Brian Higgins'
At
Jeep?
no time.
He was
Yeah.
going to the Air Force Base to dump off his SIM card, as you do.
Do they see anybody get out of the vehicle? At no time do they see any damage to the vehicle, or it hasn't happened yet. At no time do they see anyone leave the vehicle and go into the house. The vehicle moves up on different successive occasions, as testified to by Mr. Nagel and several others. And then as they're passing that vehicle, Mr. Nagel indicates that he sees a female operator in the vehicle with the dome light on. Interesting, when I asked Mr. Nagel, as far as when Julie Nagel came out to the vehicle, did he roll down the window or did he open the door? He indicated he opened the door. And I asked him, what happened when you open the door? What happens when you open the door to a vehicle? The dome light comes on. So there's a reason I would submit, or the inference that you can make, is that no one sees Mr. O'Keefe in the vehicle because that's the moment he steps out of the vehicle.
He's 6'2". You'd see him on the other side of the car.
And you would probably notice that the door was open when you looked in and said, "Oh, the door's open."
Again, you guys, if he's crouching down, getting ready to go into his cocktail glass throw, then he's...
No, but that's not when he did it. That was after they left. Then she started moving forward, and then he karate kicked it, and left-handed thrown, because everyone knows that men who throws left-handed kind of
Baker, how did he twist and turn and go onto the sidewalk?
Pirouette is what the word they used.
Well, I understand, but how? I don't get it. We spent bajillions of dollars. The Commonwealth is spending $30,000 on Brennan, and we still don't have a little
300,000. 300,000.
We don't have a stick figure guy explaining how the hell this man ended up in the yard.
You don't need it. The scene talked to Trooper Paul, and it's all been relayed.
He did talk to Miss Cleo the day before, so I can understand.
Oh, it's so bad, Mo. It's so bad. He's tying his shoe.
I love that Wendy Murphy, when she gave me the insight to understand the case, said the reason why she hit him when he was bent over was because he was trying to put his shoe on while palming 2 cocktail glasses.
I mean, honest to God, Karen was pissed off about the whole wearing the shoes in the side thing, and she's like, "Screw you, Paul," or "Screw you, John," and just went.
Let's pretend these are cocktail glasses. Let me try and grab something. I can get a squishy. Oh, no, I can't. Like someone said before, does even the aunties believe that this story? He's standing out, and I love that. Oh, he reached into the car with this glass in one hand and then took the other glass from the middle console because she was such an alcoholic. He knew she couldn't drive those 5 minutes to his house and get a new drink. Let me try and stand up and lean forward like this in a car because this is totally cromulent. That's how I would do it.
I mean, that being said, I think we have our new Prancer size, drinker size.
Yeah.
Hey, I'd play.
Hey, me too.
And again, if he lost the shoe by ninja kicking the car, the Commonwealth story about losing a car is indicative of a car strike goes out the window. The problem with all of these theories are you can't be a little bit pregnant. You can't have the shoe fall off when she hits him and then fall off when he kicks the car. You can't have both things be the same at the same time. It's not Schrodinger's shoe.
What
it must
if
have
he
been
was
either
getting ready
alive
to
or
start
dead.
a kick just as she was pulling back? So the shoe was already on its way off to Sparta kick the car. And then she was also going back because that was in the 88 gigawatts and miles per hour to get back to the past.
You say gigawatts?
Mo solved the case. He used to be double fisting. Then he left-handed through it. Then he did this is Sparta, kicked the tail light. By doing that, he got swept into the air, turned in the air. That's when the tail light bit his arm and flung him off, hitting his head on the curb, throwing him up on the grass where he landed either face up or face down. We don't know. Different.
Not sure.
Make it a timeline in your face, Wendy. We figured it out.
Mo figured it out. That's exactly because when you hit a car, the blowback.
Bang, bang.
They
My
are
bendy
experts.
guy is still really stiff,
Bang,
and Baker's
bang.
mine's all like I don't want.
You have to massage
You have
him
to
a little
work
bit.
him.
Work it, baby.
Terrible. Terrible.
If the door was open, the interior light would be on. So if John was standing beside the car, you'd see him. Yeah. And Jen McCabe would probably see that light flooding out of the car because remember, she was looking out the entire time. Yeah. The last thing you want to have is a shoe fly off when kicking the tail light out of a Lexus. That's how you end up unalived. And someone
The more you know.
According to Valhalla, I'm 6 feet.
Facts. You might be like 5'11" and 3/4. But
According to my back stretching machine at the gym, I'm 5'10".
we took off our shoes and everything, Baker. I think your metric numbers
Maybe you're
don't
smaller
work.
than you think.
I don't think
And
so.
Mo will testify this is 6
I don't
inches.
think so.
No, I'm just thinking it is too close to Easter for me to be taking slow pitches. Like,
What do we got? 5 minutes left of this? Let's get this over with. I'm dying over here.
And then they're going.
Yeah, I need to go make some dinner.
Fine.
You're not
What
sharing.
time is it?
You're not
Can't
sharing.
Well,
Heather Maxim drive away from that.
sharing is
we
caring.
really want to see Lolly.
The testimony from Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson, the peanut butter and
Jesus,
jelly
it's
sandwich
6:30
conversation they
again.
had with Miss McCabe, which
How can-
while they're pulling away from the house.
How can a
where-
2-hour
We
video
got an
take
hour.
3 hours?
We got an hour-long video, and we're going on 3 hours.
We might be retarded.
This
I'm just
this
giving
trial
the
is going
option.
to take so long, y'all.
To be fair, I do have to tell my left and right like this, and I could. and use my wedding hand. Like, oh, I'm married on this one. It's definitely my left, but no, I still have to do this because the L. And then I'm dyslexic and I realized that both could be the L. And I realized this is not helpful for me.
We should just get the tattoo. Right on left.
You know I'd
Everybody's
still do
attention is
this.
drawn to the turn around, facing both of them in the backseat. Ms. Nagel is facing Ms. Levinson on the passenger side, looking out the window towards 34 Fairview Road. Ms. Levinson is looking back at Ms. Nagel, away from that area, in which Ms. Nagel indicates that she sees a 5 to 6 foot dark blob on the lawn near the pole in the hydrant.
No, she didn't.
Just where Mr. O'Keefe is discovered the next morning.
No, she did.
You have testimony recalled, and you have text messages in regard to Colin Albert when he gets picked up.
Mr. Lally, 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Colin Albert, Miss Allison McKay, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Caitlin Albert, Brian Jr., all indicating that we picked up around that time at 12:10 a.m. You have the testimony from Chris and Julie Albert, his parents, as far as when he comes home, kisses them goodnight before he goes to bed. You have that testimony in regard to Chris Albert, as far as how John O'Keefe and the defendant come to be at the waterfall in the first place, as far as John O'Keefe and his nephew coming in earlier in the day, getting a couple slices of pizza. What are you doing later on? Contained within those text messages. You have testimony from Lieutenant O'Hara, Lieutenant Tully, Sergeant Mechanic about those items being recovered. And in particular, the items being recovered on January 29th by that search team. What did Lieutenant O'Hara say? The items were found close to the curb. The items were at ground level, 3 feet of snow that they had to sift through in order to find those particular
3 feet of snow now?
Delay in the recovery of evidence. The photos in the
Jesus
video, most
Christ.
evidence earlier in the storm. This is before the 18 inches of snow falls down, before there's drifts and 3 feet of snow in places. They found the evidence where it had been at that same ground level, in the grass, under the snow, at 34 Fairview Road. We heard all of the medical testimony, which I would submit is consistent from firefighter Formati.
Yeah, it's very consistent. No indication of being struck by a car.
Dr. Rice, heard testimony regarding the defendant's blood alcohol concentration with Dr. Fowler and Nick Roberts, 93 milligrams per deciliter, 0.07 to 0.08% at 9:08 in the morning. We heard Mr. Roberts' testimony in regard to the retrograde extrapolation, 0.13 to 0.29, extrapolating back to the time of the operation. The defendant admits to drinking vodka. It's on the receipts from C.F. McCarthy's and from the waterfall. And you have the witness testimony in the surveillance video in regard to it.
But again, you assume what
forensic
time
testimony
she
that you
stopped
have.
drinking.
Yeah.
And how
In regard to the medical
quickly
testimony,
she
you have the sort of pattern
metabolizes.
abrasions, clear plastic that's recovered by Lieutenant O'Hara.
That's another thing that they, the science guy
Lieutenant Tully on
actually
January
said
29th.
was that
Clear plastic
there
that
are
has the dimples.
outliers. It can be wildly,
No
drastically
one,
different.
Well,
not
and
on
are these
anyone at
numbers
any point
based
in
on
time
men or
ever said
women?
Mr. O'Keefe's arm was out like this at the time that he struck. He did a
A
pirouette. and then flew
general
30 feet in the
consensus
air.
of the population.
12 inches of abrasions that the doctors were, the biomechanical people were talking about yesterday. 12 inches and then 6 inches to the tail end is easily solved by this. And the dimples on his arm are, and I would submit, are consistent with the dimples on the tail light cover piece, are right around.
Oh, easily solved by this.
Okay, Baker. So we have to now Sparta kick, arm like this. So he's guarding his arm.
And the tiny dimples on the inside of the glass on the tail light is what makes the abrasion on his arm. It's easily solved by this. That the jury didn't stand up and just laugh and go out and say, "Are you effing kidding me?" At this point.
Valhalla, do they tie your one arm down so you get better at punching at the other, or is that something I made up in my head?
I think they did it in the Rocky movie. He had just one arm tied up.
Okay, well, it was either that or my husband finally made me watch the last Christian Bale Batman-y thing, and
Oh, he had a sling, didn't he, for a little while? He was in a sling.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why does he always have to talk like this? And he's like, it's a
Bane?
good movie. And I was like, no, it isn't.
In this area of the elbow. You have testimony in regard to forensics as far as Mr. Porto, Mr. Bradford. John O'Keefe's DNA is on that tail light house, on the house. His DNA is there to the exclusion as well of Sergeant Mechanic and Chief Brock. Mr. O'Keefe's DNA is on the exterior of the broken drinking glass. Mr. O'Keefe's DNA, and only Mr. O'Keefe's DNA, is on his clothing and his fingernails, consistent with Dr. Scortibello's testimony that there is no evidence.
Shocking. Why it would be there?
No one else's DNA under his fingernails. There's no one else's DNA on his clothing. You have testimony from Ms. Hartman, Trooper Paul, as regard to the damage that they observed, the dents, scratches, the 7/8 of an inch hair. You have testimony from Ms. Chart in regard to the mitochondrial DNA profile from that hair being consistent with the DNA profile of Mr. O'Keefe. You have the testimony from Ms. Valier and Ms. Hanley in regard to the microscopic pieces, 1/16 of an inch by 1/16.
You have 1 minute, Mr. Lally. Wrap it up.
Yes, sir.
I don't know
All consistent
why.
with pieces of taillights that are found within his clothing.
There's no tail light found in his clothes, just to be on, because that's another thing that they'll really like to go on with the antis. Microscopic traces of tail light in his clothes. I believe she said, I never combed through that clothes. It was delivered to me like that.
In a package, already separated.
It could have been in the clothes, but I don't know. She never testified that she found microscopic pieces of plastic embedded in his clothing.
She couldn't have, because they were already apparently separated by the time they got to her.
Yeah.
So the definition of microscopic, so small as to be visible only with the microscope. 1/16 of an inch is pretty invisible. There was no microscope.
605.
I'm squinting when I'm reading that screen, so.
At that speed for approximately that.
That's fair. That's fair.
This is the dumbest thing I've
There's
ever
another-
seen in my entire life.
Years and years ago, started practicing in Norfolk County, in Braintree, what is now Quincy, and eventually became a far smarter man than myself. Eventually became president of the United States. His name was John F. And whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passions, they cannot alter the state of the facts and the evidence. What the constellation of the facts and the evidence in the
Yeah, I don't give a shit about your invoking John F. Kennedy, who also actually was quite wrong, because he stated in front of God and every man that he would love his wife and be faithful to her.
Was he quoting JFK or John Adams?
I don't
thought
know.
it was it Samuel Adams? He just wanted
No,
a
that's
beer.
the beer. John Adams is the president. John Quincy.
Well, I know,
Adams.
but I don't expect Lally to know the difference.
Oh my God, my heart
This was
rate's
3
through the
hours
roof.
of enjoyment, reminding us where we are going next week. But instead of having the lovable, fun, intelligent Lally, we will have the weasel Brennan to do all the talking this time.
Yay!
I, for one, can't wait.
Yay!
Hey, I'm just glad Ichabod Crane got out of Sleepy Hollow before the Haitian got him.
You keep calling him Ichabod Crane. That man is Waylon Smithers in person. And
He's not
He
nice
is
enough.
one of the weasels
be-
from The Wind in the Willows.
the what?
We need to have each of our thumbnails have to have one of the iterations.
Ichabod Crane, Waylon Smithers, and the weasels from the wind.
YouTube is a-hole. No red me type chat fada rada ra 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 ra. You want
Nope.
No.
Exhibit A, y'all. Exhibit A.
Except Waylon is sassy and he's like bitchy in a cute way. You want to spend time with him because he's going to make fun of everyone with you. Hank, I don't want to spend any time with.
Waylon Smithers is a paid-for shill of Mr. Burns to implement all of Mr. Burns's evil doings and spin it in a positive light. He is the walking embodiment of Waylon Smithers.
Well, to be fair, he did get to hear the first version of, see my vest made of real gorilla chest. And I mean, that makes all of his days worthwhile.
Oh my God. Oh my God. What the hell is that?
70s shows were creepy.
What is it, Baker? Yeah.
You're still muted.
Damn it, Mo.
It's a British children's show.
It looks like a children's show.
Well, we could tell it wasn't Denmarkian because it didn't have, a long peen.
It's not a Danish claymation. This is Wind in the Willows. It's a great show. You should watch it. Watch it with your kids. It's a lot of fun.
It was made
stuff
by
in
Jimmy
there.
Savile, wasn't it? It was a Jimmy Savile show.
Savile, no.
Savile, whatever.
Yeah, he's still a nonce.
You know what? You got the joke. You got the joke. Oh, all right. I'm going to be honest. I think Mrs. Walhalla probably has plans for me this afternoon.
I will be honest. I have plans for myself as well.
That a boy. That is the creepiest damn thing.
Again, British children's TV.
It's like nightmare fuel. What do you let your kids watch this?
Why does
Hey,
the weasel
we've been
have
through
a
2
fishnet?
World Kerfuffles. We are not soft people.
Yeah, but why does he have no pants on? He has a hat, he has jewelry, but no pants.
He's got a belt.
It's a lifestyle and fashion choice.
Fur pants.
Well, I mean, how can you find pants with a tail hole? I mean, it's a common Alabama problem too.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's like 6-fingered gloves, almost impossible to come by.
Well, that's why you have to get your Meemaw to knit your flipper mittens.
Yeah, you need those the kids have. That's just one big one. Russian aloha. Thank you for being here with us. But I'm going to go make myself the pizza I didn't make yesterday because today we are 1 hour earlier done than yesterday, even though it took us 3 hours to watch a 1 hour show. I will probably put on the state closing tomorrow at 9:30. But I have to say it because Valhalla would yell at me because
that means he's going to schedule it for 9 o'clock. Mark my words. It's going to get scheduled for 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to get the link at 6:45. That's how it's going to work.
Keeps him on his toes. We will watch Yannetti and his closing just to get into the high spirit. And you don't need to get the sermon you get every time. Go show my lovely co-host some love.
Heck yeah.
Thank you.
My chat's going to the goat stream that I've got set up. 24/7 goat stream in operation. We had another baby last night. That's baby number 3 for the nursery. A little boy. He's just the cutest. You guys are going over there to check that out. I'll probably kick Alice and Dottie out right soon, quick, fast. And it'll just be the 2 babies and their mamas. But come check me out. Valhalla waits. Appreciate y'all.
Hey guys, I'm Mo in the deep end, and you guys are going to go over to Idicmel. It looks like there might be a emerging situation over.
What'd you say the name was?
Idicmel?
Ickidmel.
Look, I don't know names, y'all.
If Mel is looking good, I'll dick her as well.
Look,
I think I dicked a Mel once. Now that I think about it.
Look, I already start a hate crime every time I try to do a
This
damn international
is when Mo
story.
realized she made a mistake.
That being said, it does look like there's an emerging situation at a Florida college with maybe an active situation. So there you go. Look, his name is a trick. It doesn't follow phonics, and I can't read.
I'm going to do absolutely nothing but eat and go and yell at someone on Twitter, because that's what I do when I'm not streaming. And hopefully tonight I won't wake up again at 3 a.m. and start a stream at 4 saying I like assholes. Because
if you do next time, do me a favor and set up this stream for tomorrow and send me the link then. That'd be awesome.
If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Again, in that picture, there are the red pieces. There are some of it still there. So it's cracked and missing. In a state of shock, that was my description.
I'll allow it.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that at her
Do you remember it or do you not, Ms. McCabe? That's a simple question.
that morning, I don't remember specifically what I Googled, but I do know what you've put out to the social media.
How about this? So according to you, it was a butt dial that went to his phone that somehow lasted 1 second. Get cut and dry. Pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right? Pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right?
Objection.
Pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right?